Well, Benny, this show, I got to tell you, my phone lines are going crazy right now, and I can't get to everybody right now. I have to get to a special person who is going to help me for the next 2 hours and 45 minutes. Just great stuff. And before I pick her up, I have to do this for her. I played this back in December, and I'm going to play this and then pick up the lovely and talented Kathy Rich.
I mean, we were very, very close. He was great. I mean, he was there for me every time I needed him. He never let me down. He was everything a father should be.
I fell in love with you the first time I looked into them there eyes. You got a certain little cute way of flirting with them there eyes. They make me feel so happy. They make me feel so blue. I'm falling, not stalling, falling in a great big way for you. My heart is thumping. You started thumping with them there eyes. You better watch out. It's the wise little brown eyes. They sparkle, they bubble. They're gonna get you in a whole lot of trouble. You baby, them there eyes. Flirting with them there eyes. They make me feel so happy. They make me feel so blue. I'm falling, not stalling, falling in a great big way for you. My heart is thumping. You started thumping with them there eyes. You better watch out. It's your wise little brown eyes. They sparkle. They bubble. They're gonna get you in a trouble. Them there eyes. Them there eyes.
And now back to Around the Kit with Joe Gansas.
Guys, we are back, 646-787-8027. It gives me great pleasure to welcome back to Around the Kid, the lovely and talented Miss Kathy Rich. Kathy, Joe Gansas, Around the Kid. How are you, sweetie? What's going on?
Hey, Joe. That's the way to start a show. Wow. I haven't heard that in
God.
forever.
You know, Kathy, I played Buddy Solo, which you were there in the Dominican Republic from '82. One of the best solos. Yes. You were with him,
Ever.
and now you. I got to tell you, thank you for doing this. This show, Kathy, I just got goosebumps just from talking to you. That's what the drumming world has done for me, and all these great drummers. And your father has been dead for 29 years, and the response.
Yes.
My phone lines are going crazy now. It's been the most popular show. You know, what does Kathy Rich attribute that all to?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, as I told you, I think when I first spoke to you, he asked me when he knew that he wasn't going to be with us. He asked me to do a few things, and I like to think that I have, you know, honored his wishes, and one of them was to, you know, keep his memory alive and let people know that, you know, he spent his entire life, you know, on the road and performing and bringing the art form of jazz to as many people in the world as he could. And when, a lot of celebrities, when they pass away, you never really hear about them again, or you never hear, you know, their families just either don't, you know, have the time or the inclination to, you know, really keep their memory alive and going. And because he asked me, you know, certain specific things, I like to think that I have honored those things. And because of that, I think he's probably as popular or more popular today as he was 30 years ago. And, you know, I hope that I've done for him at least a tenth of what he did for me.
Great, guys. We're talking to the lovely and talented Kathy Rich. She'll be my co-host for the next 2 hours and 40 minutes. Kathy, on the line is my friend Benny Sabone. He's a drummer from Staten Island and a great drummer named Doug Miola. Say hello to them.
Doug, how are you? I haven't met you in person, but we kind of go back and forth all the time on Facebook and Instagram, but it's great to meet you.
Hi, Kathy. It's a pleasure. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And hi, Benny. I haven't met you either, but great to meet you tonight.
Same here, Kathy. It's a great honor to speak, listen to you speak, and to be a part of this. Your father was a great influence to me since I'm 16 years old. Incredible. I can't believe it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love hearing that. That makes me happy.
Well,
yeah.
Let me go to Doug. I'll go to Benny before we get to the Dave in about 10 minutes. You know,
yes.
Doug Miola, great drummer, instructor, educator. He's part of the show now. He does a weekly blog, and we play it. Next week we'll start again. So, Doug, thank you. But, Doug, any questions you have directly to Kathy? Anything you always wanted to know about Buddy? You know, you want to ask Kathy anything?
Well, I want to say thank you, first of all, for all that you do to, you know, keep the legacy alive. Of course, you know, it's your father, but
yes.
Your father means so much to me as a drummer, and still, you know, continues to inspire me. When I was 11 years old, my grandfather was like, you have to learn how to play like Buddy Rich, right? And
yes.
I even went out, and when I got my first snare drum at that time, I had to wait for 2 years to get a drum kit. But I got this Slingerland snare drum package, and it had a Buddy Rich vacuum pad. And I was like, I have to get the Buddy Rich one, you know? So my grandfather instilled in me the greatness of Buddy Rich when, you know, Kiss and all the metal rock bands. So I was like, I have to learn how to play like Buddy Rich, right? So
wow.
I just am so inspired, and what you and Greg do with the band, you know, is awesome. And as an educator, I'm just honored because I have little kids that I'm teaching about Buddy. And
that's great.
His inspiration on the whole community of drummers in the drumming world. I have drummers in their 60s and 70s that are learning how to play like Buddy because they knew him all their lives, and they still are trying to achieve that, right? So it's an honor to know that I want to work at keeping that legacy alive and bringing it to new generations of drummers too. So it's an honor.
I think that's like really the whole purpose of, you know, what I do and what I've been doing for all these years is that, you know, if I don't do it, you know, my son, you know, he's a drummer, he's a great drummer. His kid is a great drummer. So it's like you have to keep it going. And that's kind of, I think, what my dad was trying to tell me is that, you know, if I drop the ball, then, you know, what happens? You know, it's about new generations of drummers coming up. And I can't tell you how many kids and emails and people, and when I go to, you know, various places that, you know, these little kids who weren't even alive when Buddy was alive are coming up to me and saying that Buddy is their favorite drummer. And that's what it's all about to me, is that, you know, we have to keep educating new generations about him. And, you know, he lives on that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's,
guys,
I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry,
Doug.
No, I was just saying that when you have all these drummers that you know, when I introduce younger drummers to Buddy, and I say, well, you like John Bonham, right? Well, guess where he got a lot of that, right? And so going back and saying, well, you really want to learn where these drummers that you love got their stuff, go listen to this, right? And then they're learning Buddy songs, and I'm giving them transcriptions, and they're learning fills. They're like, it's going to take me a year to learn this song. I'm like, it doesn't matter how long it takes. We're going to do it, right? So, you know, but it's just so great to see them.
Well, that's the thing, too, is that, you know, we live in a world that everything is so instantaneous that, you know, nobody wants to put in the time and the effort to get great. And, you know, I think a lot of people don't realize that, you know, when you're coming up that, oh, I just want to be famous. Well, it's not about that. You know, you have to put in the time and the work and years of studying and, you know, perfecting your craft. and then possibly, if you're really lucky, you might get famous. But if your motivation is to get famous and be a YouTube sensation, then you probably want to think of doing something else.
Absolutely. I have a student who said, so if I get really good and I make really great YouTube videos, I can make a living doing that, right? And I said, tell you what, sell all your drums and buy lottery tickets, because that's not what it's
you have a lot more of a chance of hitting the lottery than that.
Guys, if I can, I got to play my This Week in Drumming promo. It's a special one before we pick up Dave. Doug, Kathy, Benny, just sit still for 4 minutes, please. I'm going to play my promo, and then we'll wait for the great Dave Weckl. This Week in Drumming, and it goes like this.
Who?
Here we go. What's up on Around the Kit? This week on Around the Kit in drumming history, we salute and pay homage to the most coveted drumming phenomenon in history, the politically incorrect perfectionist, the one-of-a-kind jazz drumming virtuoso, Bernard Buddy Rich. Born September 30th, 1917, in Brooklyn, New York, to Jewish-American vaudevillian parents Bess and Robert Rich. Pal, his family nickname, started drumming before he started walking, putting on high chair concerts as an infant, forming rhythmic patterns on his tray with forks, knives, and spoons. In the spring of 1919, in Fort Wayne, Indiana, while his parents were rehearsing for their show at the Bijou, Robert sat his 18-month-old son down on stage next to the pit drummer. The drummer handed the baby a set of sticks to amuse him, and the magic unfolded. As the orchestra began to play, baby Pal began tapping the stage in perfect rhythm. Each time the tempo changed, his tiny hands would adjust to the new pace without missing a beat. Pal was hired on the spot. He took the stage later that afternoon wearing his adorable signature sailor suit. He not only won their hearts, his drumming paralyzed the Indiana audience. By age 4, Traps, the drum wonder, became the highest paid child performer in the world. In 1937, during the Great Depression, without his father's blessings, Buddy left the dimming lights of vaudeville and Broadway to pursue a career playing the music that spoke to him: jazz, big bands, and swing. B especially admired Count Basie, Lester Young, Roy Eldridge, and Joe Jones, placing them at the forefront of jazz. He felt the way they swung, coupled with their innovative style, paved the way for all of us. With his long arms and long, graceful hands that he kept well buffed, manicured, and polished at all times, Buddy showed us what was possible behind the kit with his astonishing technique, his remarkable speed, and his smooth execution, all uniquely mastered using natural instincts. Gene Krupa defined him as the greatest drummer ever to have drawn breath. Buddy performed with the best of the best band leaders and musicians: Artie Shaw, Tommy Dorsey, Harry James, Frank Sinatra, jazz at the Philharmonic, Nat King Cole, Ella Fitzgerald, Gene Krupa, and Louis Armstrong, to name a few. The life of Buddy Rich is chronicled in the well-written book Traps, the Drum Wonder, by his longtime friend, world-renowned jazz singer-musician Mel Torme, who wonderfully describes what he witnessed night after night while watching his drum master friend. He said, "The man was perpetual motion, filling the gaps with tasteful, sometimes explosive statements, bearing down when the dynamics of a chart called for strength, easing back for contrast, always totally in control." His last TV interview in 1987 with British talk show host Michael Parkinson, Buddy was quoted by saying, "Until it's time to go, you should show up on the job." Happy 99th birthday to the immortal Buddy Rich. Rest in peace, B.
And now back to Around the Kit with Joe Gansas.
Guys, we are back, 646-787-8227. We are on the line with Kathy Rich, who will be my co-host. Kathy, did you enjoy that?
That was awesome, Joe. I love that. Wow.
Great.
But you always put great things together. You have great questions, and you really go deeper than most, and that's commendable.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words. We're talking with Kathy Rich, who's my co-host, the great Doug Miola and Benny Rich. Guys, I don't get to say this too much, and I never blow smoke. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show one of the greatest drummers ever to sit behind a set, the great Dave Weckl. Dave, Joe Gansas, Kathy Rich, around the kit. Welcome back to the show, Dave.
Hey, Joe, Kathy, how you doing?
Who is this?
Who? Yeah, exactly. On a day like today, you can rightly say that.
I hear you.
Joe, thanks for having me back.
Oh, Dave, thank you so much, man. It's an honor. You were on the show earlier this year. How you doing, man? What's going on?
Doing good. Yeah, enjoying a little downtime between road stints here. So enjoying the California weather at the moment, and talking to you guys.
Before we get to Buddy,
I'm in California too.
Oh, you are?
I am. I'm in Palm Springs. Dave and I are just going to have a moment, Joe. It's okay.
There you go.
Just sit
go
there
ahead.
for a second. Yeah, I'm in Palm Springs visiting my mother.
Yes, I actually knew that from our Facebook little posting. So,
but yes.
Yeah,
so
well,
I
you're
just
enjoying
want to say that I've been thrown in the pool more times today than probably ever in my entire life. Every time I get dressed, I get thrown in the pool.
Oh, that's not the way it's supposed to work. But you're getting good weather. You're getting good weather, so at least it's not you're not in Chicago freezing weather when getting thrown in the pool.
True.
So
anyway, yes.
Dave,
sorry.
We're going to talk about Buddy, but just give me a couple minutes. How has it been reliving this great band with Chick Corea and all the musicians? How has that been going?
Well, we just kind of kicked it off a couple of weeks ago, and it's I just finished doing an interview today actually that I was writing about that, and it's really a fantastic feeling and situation to be in with these guys. It's like a combination of sitting in an old comfortable chair and at the same time enjoying the moment of the freshness of it all, being all of us some 30 years later, enjoying everybody's evolution and, the moment that it is right now. So it's a fantastic thing that we enjoyed the week here in LA, and we're about to start some East Coast dates next week.
Great, guys. We are talking to the great, tremendous Dave Weckl and my co-host, Kathy Rich. Dave, you've been playing a long time. We talked back in January, had a great interview. Take me back to the first time you remember hearing Buddy Rich play.
Well, it would probably be my living room where the drums eventually got set up, and my father bringing home a Buddy Rich record, which I think at the time was either the record that West Side Story was on, or it was Big Swing Face. And I have a feeling it was Big Swing Face, though, because I think that was the first tune that I actually attempted as a 12-year-old to try to play along with. And that would have been it. I think that was the beginning of the addiction to listening to and, somewhat trying to figure out just what the heck was going on there.
Absolutely.
Have you figured it out yet?
Nope, never will. Never will. Nobody ever will. I've had a resurgence with my enjoyment of listening to Buddy again, and it's kind of cool with the advent of the internet, and Kathy, with everything you've been doing to keep Buddy's name and music and the band and his playing alive. There's so much stuff out there now that wasn't available or easily findable 35, 40, 50 years ago when I was okay, let's not go back that far, 40 years ago. Not quite that old yet, but there's so much great stuff now that you can easily access, and it's great. And of course, through the years that I've made it known to everybody in the business that what a tremendous influence and impact Buddy had on me as growing up in my childhood and my teen years playing, and so people have given me things, recordings from Europe, very obscure things that I might not normally have heard, and it's turned into my workout music. I'll go to the gym and just obsess on Buddy stuff that I haven't heard, or just relive the stuff that I did hear, and it's just been such a great continuing inspiration that it's really enjoyable at this stage to kind of go back and revisit it, which has been kind of going on since a lot of the reunion, not reunion, but the memorial things that you did, Kathy, and those always forcefully inspire going back and relearning the whole essence of playing with a big band and playing those charts that I grew up playing in my living room on the stereo, and every time I get to do it with a real band, it's just a realization of probably the most enjoyable time behind a kit, playing with a big band and playing Buddy's charts.
Kathy, if I may, you did a great job with the memorial concerts. And guys, we're talking to the great Dave Weckl and my co-host Kathy Rich, live on Around the Kit right now. But I think, there was great. There was great trios on the stage. Chambers, Bissonette, and Belson was great. But I got to tell you, and it's been the most talked about. And I don't know if you'll agree or disagree, but Steve Gadd in the middle, and Vinnie Cagliolita and Dave Weckl on each side. It doesn't. I'm not blowing smoke. It doesn't get better than that, Kathy.
No, it actually doesn't get any better than that. And Dave knows how I feel about him, and he knows how I feel about his playing. And it's not a surprise to anybody when I say that. When Dave sits down and plays in Buddy's band, it sounds how it's supposed to sound. And, it's the absolute truth. You know that, and I've told you that a million times. But, other people sit down in the band, and it's like there's a band and a drummer. When Dave sits down, it's just a band. And that's exactly how Buddy did it. It's a cohesive, beautiful unit. And so, yes, that's how I feel about Dave.
Well, it's very sweet of you to say that, Kathy. It's nice to hear you say it on the air in front of a bunch of people. That's cool, but but
I'm a
really cool of you.
Liar, so
right. But it's so great to hear you say that, because that really is the essence that I've tried all my life, and I still try to do, that nobody could do like Buddy, and that is play the music with the band and phrase and the touch, and I don't think people realize just how actually soft he played a lot of the times. And this is something that I've just kind of come to realize over the years, that the touch, the things that made the bombastic stuff so amazing was the contrast. And so many of us have made the mistake of not having enough of that contrast, as we try to emulate or play like our heroes, and
but it's funny that that you mentioned that, because I just received 4 cuts from the very last things that he recorded in London in 1986, literally 4 or 5 months before he passed away. And the one thing, as I'm listening to these recordings, is he's playing it's a level, it's beyond. He was playing greater than I've ever heard him play, literally 5 months before he passed away. The touch, the phrasing, the musicality, the tunes that he was picking, and I sit back and I'm just, I'm trying to listen so objectively, and it's hard to do because it's so emotional for me. But to listen to his touch and, on screaming tunes, but he's so in control of everything, and the band sounds like one horn. Well, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. The things.
I was going to say this. When we watch Buddy, he's a guy who's smiling, then he's sweating, and he's playing everything so brilliantly. I think one of the best things that I've learned about Buddy lately is how in command, Dave, how in command he was as a musician and as a band leader.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, he was completely in command of the instrument, and that's where it all starts. And he set the precedent that I'm sure some of it and a lot of it was spoken, but then again, a lot of it wasn't. It's like, here's the time. This is how I'm playing. Play with me. And
right.
that's how I grew up. Listening to that was my enjoyment of listening to Buddy and his band, the way that he played the time. And sometimes it was really on top. Sometimes it was really laid back. But wherever it was, the band was with him, and that's the whole beauty of playing together and listening to each other, and not that somebody's right or wrong. But in this case, when you're the drummer, and I mean, this is how I approach every situation that I play. If I'm playing with a leader, I'm going to play with that leader and not, force a time feel just because I'm a drummer. It's an adaptation. And, but when you're the drummer, it's like, okay, now this is, and I'm sure that's, a lot had to do with, why Buddy wanted to have a band, because he wanted to do it his way. It's like, I want to play my time, my feel, the way I want to do it, and you guys play with me or you're fired.
Well,
and sometimes right then and there.
Yes. Dave, if I could, I'm sorry. We've heard all the tapes. I don't want to get into it, but I find those tapes fascinating. They call it the so-called bus tapes, whatever they call them. I've even talked to Kathy about this. But Dave, if you're in charge of a company, you're the CEO, you're the coach of a football team. You're the top doctor in a hospital. You're the boss. Period. And I think what people missed out on those tapes is, was he chewing the band out? Well, maybe, but to me it says, I'm the boss. I want it a certain way, and it's got to be this way, or else. Your thoughts on that?
Well,
Dave?
look. Those bus tapes, it's people try to play them for me, and it's like, look, I have no interest really to listen to them, because honestly, I could completely. First of all, there's two sides to every story, and what you're getting with anything like that is one side of some sort of reaction, some sort of reaction's the best word, to something that went down, something happened that caused it, and I'm not saying that Buddy or I or anybody handling a reaction to a situation maybe did it the best way. But, the point is that, and what you're saying, Joe, is exactly right in that case, is that, hey, this is the precedent. We're up there playing, every show could be the last show. And that's how I play the instrument too. Every time I play it, I don't care with what band it's with where I'm at in the world, it's like, this could be the last time I touch this instrument. So I expect everybody on the stage to be giving it the same 110% that I'm giving it. And if not, then there's a problem, and for me, when I had a band, I would try to go about it as diplomatically as possible if something wasn't working. But when you're out there 300 and whatever days a year doing this, and it's I completely understand the frustration. So but those things, I just it's one side of the story, man. It's not the story that I'm interested to hear, really.
And it's, again, it's a moment in time that. Again, and the thing that most people don't know is that the person who was the aggravating person in that scenario ended up staying in the band for another 2 years. So how bad could it have been? And, again, which of us, who among us has not been, yelled at by our boss for not doing the job that we were hired to do? And that's really what it is that Buddy was so passionate about what he did, and he wanted it to be as perfect as it could be. And when you're the leader of 16 kids, basically, I mean, he was considered, he was the old man. It's like being a school teacher, and you've got errant kids running around, with lollipops thinking that, aren't we having fun out on the road on this bus with Buddy? And, you know, he didn't look at it that way. It was a job, and I only ask 2 hours of your time a night, and the other, 22, go and do what you want. But when you're here with me and my name is out there, I expect the best from you. And that's really the bottom line to it. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we've been joined for the last 15 minutes. Dave Weckl. Dave, I can't thank you enough. I'm going to bring on my next guest. I'm sure you guys are old friends. If you want to just say hello before you go. Guys, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to Around the Kit another all-time great, the great Kenny Aronoff. Kenny, you're on a line with myself, Kathy Rich, and Dave Weckl. What's up, brother?
Oh, my God. I love everybody. Dave, how you doing?
Kenny!
Wait, Kenny who? Wait, Kenny who?
Hey, don't.
I'm sorry, that was Kathy.
Don't believe a word he says. He loves me. He just now admit it on the radio. You love me.
That was
David.
Kathy's line. I have to use it.
Dave,
so how you doing, my brother? Exactly.
Dude, I'm so glad I got you guys on at the same time. It's so cool.
Kenny,
Yeah, it's really great.
I love
You know what the problem is? That's right. You know what? The thing is, everybody's so damn busy that we never get to see each other. And here we are
That's
now
true.
on the radio talking. I keep saying to Dave every time I see him, man, we got to get together. We got to get together because, well, all of us go way back. But, Dave and I became really good friends very quickly. I think it was on the first Modern Drummer day.
That's right.
Festival.
That's right.
First one.
That's
I
right.
was a nobody. Well, actually, we were all nobodies, kind of, but we were all trying to make it our own
Hey,
way.
speak for yourself, man.
Hey, wait, speak for yourself, Kenny.
No, well, I was somebody
Kidding.
in my own mind. I wasn't yet somebody in everybody else's mind. Maybe Kathy's mind. Right, Kathy?
Yes, absolutely.
Of course. Just say absolutely. Anyway, Dave, you good?
Well, everything is good, man. We do have to catch up, but listen, this is your 15-minute time slot here to talk about, buddy, and I'm going to let you do that. And and then you call me.
Dave, I'll
call
you.
me tomorrow, and then we're going to hang out.
That's right. And exactly. I'm flying back to California, but I'm going to call you.
Great. Call me. I'm home.
Dave.
All right, Kathy.
Dave,
Joe,
thank
you very much for having me. Thank you. And
Davey,
Kathy, love
I
you.
will be talking to you soon. Love you.
All right, love you too. All right, happy birthday, buddy. Yay. Okay, see you guys.
Yay.
Take care.
Right.
Guys, the great Dave Weckl. But we are now talking to the tremendous Kenny Aronoff, who is a friend of the show. Kenny, thank you for giving me some of your time. I know you had a gig today. Nobody's busier than you, so thanks for this time, man.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm actually driving back to Milwaukee right now with Kurt Newman from the Bodines. We just did a gig, and this is the only time I could squeeze it in.
So, Kenny, you played on Burning for Buddy. I'm sure you knew Buddy. When I don't want to get into questions. When someone says the name Buddy Rich, what comes into your mind?
Best drummer in the world. There's
There you
nobody
go.
compared to him. Best drummer in the world. I mean, I just watched him 2 nights ago, and I just sit there and just giggle. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's from another planet. Can I swear on this show?
Yes.
He's from another fucking planet. I mean, there's just nobody like it. I mean, in every which way or form. I just wish I'd had the chance to arm wrestle with him, but I guess I didn't. I missed out on that, but I used to take it out on Kathy all the time when I'd see her.
That is true. I have arm wrestled Kenny many a time.
Yeah, really. Well, actually, I hug wrestled her.
We hug wrestled.
Okay, Kathy, I'm going to embarrass you, but don't worry, it's not bad.
Oh, no.
I had a major crush on her. I fell in love with her on that record. It was from Kathy, was it when you were singing on a record from in London? Live
yes,
from London?
okay, yes.
And it was, I
London.
heard her sing. I was just a little kid. We were all little kids.
We were all little kids.
We were all little kids, and she was singing la-di-da-di-da, la-di-da-di-da. And I had the biggest crush. I fell in love with her. Then when I met her, I didn't faint, but I hugged her to death. Right? Didn't I, Kathy?
Yes.
Right?
That is true.
You know
and
I've
every
had a
time I
crush on
see you hug me to death every time I see
I
you,
do,
which
I
is
do.
quite enjoyable, actually.
Yeah, she doesn't mind, but,
I don't
one of those
mind
things.
at all.
Right? I mean, I was singing on the radio. I had a crush on her. When I met her, it was very fulfilling.
Kenny,
I love
we would
to hug her and to say hi to her.
We were just talking about, and guys, we're talking to the immortal Kenny Aronoff, one of the most professional and best drummers ever. Just a guy, when you watch him, he's so professional, and I can't thank him so much. Kenny, we were just talking about Buddy's confidence behind the set. Give me a little bit more on the way he handled everything, his band and his demeanor.
Well, I mean, it starts from the person. I mean, his playing was a reflection of his personality and his and the way he saw things. He's one of those guys that saw, everything was a straight line. He between 2 points is a straight line, and this guy, there were no curves or deviations. He saw it. He was very gifted to see and hear what he wanted, and he demanded that from his band, and he probably demanded that from everybody on a personal level, right, Kathy? I mean, he was just. There was no bullshit. It was like, this is.
Yeah, that's the thing with him, and the thing that I'm thankful that I got from him was the straight aheadness of his personality, and how you always knew where you stood. There was no question. You always knew what was going on with him. He wasn't a BSer. Right. He was just a straight ahead guy who, if he was happy, he was happy, and he'd tell you he's happy, and if he's not happy, he's going to tell you he's not happy. And, that's kind of how it should be. Everybody's so, politically correct today that, no one's going to tell you the truth. But that man would have told you the truth no matter what.
I had an uncle like that. He was a self-made man, a Golden Gloves boxer, Navy pilot, tough son of a bitch. This guy would do one-handed push-ups, smoking a cigar, and laugh in your face. And he was that. Yeah, he was. It's in my book. I mean, and he was. He reminded me of Buddy, that type of guy. It was like there was no bullshit. There was no time to bullshit. He just told it how it was. And so
Kenny,
that's it.
Yeah, he was amazing. Amazing as a person. Amazing as a drummer. Amazing as a personality. The whole thing. A lot of people couldn't handle that. You know what? I call them wimps.
A lot of people can't handle being told the truth, and that's if you worked for Buddy, you were going to hear the truth. That's it.
You know what? I'm so glad a guy like that, was around and is still around. Even though he's passed away, he's still around. He's immortal. It's good to have role models like that. People are lazy and entitled these days. It's just it's disgusting. And so, oh my God, if Buddy was around, he'd be beating everybody up. I mean,
kicking ass and taking names. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'd be right behind him. I'd be his henchman.
That's it.
I promise you.
Kenny Aronoff, any chance we ever see another Buddy Rich?
Oh God, no, it's not impossible. It's not possible because it's not. I mean, I'm serious. There's great drummers with lots of technique. It's not just the technique. You can't learn a personality. You're born a certain way. There's only one of anybody. There's only one of him. It's not possible. He's
not possible.
It's not possible. Listen, I have an identical twin brother, and we're different. We look alike, but we're different. Everybody's different, and there's only one Buddy Rich. No guy like him. Don't even waste your time waiting for another guy like him.
We spoke about it, Kenny. You were on a show last month again. We spoke about it. You were on Burning for Buddy. Just give us a couple minutes. I know you remember you telling me you were so nervous. Just give us a couple minutes on that Burning for Buddy session again.
Okay. First of all, I've never been intimidated to play the drums, but there was a few moments in my life where I've been nervous, and one was walking into that session because I've been recording with like Cinderella, Hank Jr., a bunch of sessions in Canada. I was 3 weeks on the road, and Kathy called me up and suggested I play some songs they sent me that were more rock, and I went, no. I want to play traditional jazz. I want to play the songs that were, really, really well known in Buddy's catalog. So I picked Big Swing Face because I thought medium tempo, and I love the song. And I think that if you love a song, you'll play it better. So then I wanted to do Straight No Chaser, but I was like, I don't know, man. I'm not going to be at home practicing. Sure enough, 2 days later, Kathy calls me and goes, hey, Kenny, everybody's doing 2 songs. I really think you should do another song. I went, well, what did you have in mind? She said, Straight No Chaser. I went, okay. And I went, all right. I have a right of refusal because I was in the peak of my recording career. I didn't have time to sit home and practice. If you see the tape, the recording of it, I'm reading the whole thing because I was practicing at 1 a.m. at the end of sessions. Anyway, I come in there, and as I told you before, as soon as I get off the elevator, I'm going, I shouldn't be here. This is crazy. And there's cameras rolling, Freddy Krueger, Kathy. Well, Kathy was actually the only thing that made me relax. I mean, everything else was making me freak out, you know. And I'm thinking, like,
the truth comes out.
But I gotta say, anyway, so it was just, I just thought, like, wait a minute, man, I shouldn't be here. Anyway, long story short, I did 4 takes of, you know, Big Swing Face, and I do so many sessions, I know how to manage a session. I went in to listen to it, I went, I can do it better. And that's when they all went, you only get 4 that's what Neil said, you only get 4 tries. I went,
4 tries, 4
talking about?
That's it, you're out.
Yeah, but nobody told me that before. I would have, like, maybe considered what it was. Oh, my God.
And he sounded great. Are you kidding me?
Just
That's
be
crazy.
glad I'm not in the studio next to you right now. Dude, there's more than hugs going on. Anyway, so she's tough, man. She's tough when she's on the other line of the phone.
That's true. We're not far away, boy. Watch out.
I know. She's a tough cookie, isn't she? In front of me, she's just as tough. But anyway, so then when it came time to do Straight No Chaser, man, it was all balls to walls. I literally went, you know, I got to get this right away, and I only get 4 takes. And I remember, as I mentioned before, recording it. The band, by the way, was so badass. You know, they've been groomed to play, you know, with Buddy as the leader. They played impeccable time. You couldn't play out of time with them. They'd leave you in the dust. They're not. They just leave you in the dust. And I was blown away by it. And, you know, I'm telling you, I've just been recording with Cinderella, which is Marshall Stacks. This band was loud and powerful, perfectly in time, crisp, tight, like, you know, razor blade. But I remember playing, and I kept thinking, at one point, it was just blazing. I went like, wow, man, this sounds really good. And I looked at my hands, and I went, shit, that's not me playing. And I went, well, whoever's playing, don't get in the way of that person because they're doing a good job. And I just tried to forget about what I was doing and just play, or let whoever was playing was doing a good job, and I let it happen. That's what it felt
like. There you
go.
And it sounded great. Kenny did a great job, but he always does a great job.
Well,
Kenny,
thank you. Not always.
I can't thank you enough, brother. I know you just came from a gig. You always give me time, and you're one of the best. I want to say thank you before I get to my next guest. Any last words you want to say to Kenny, Kathy?
Just that he knows I love him to death, and when I see you, I'm going to hug you and squeeze you.
Whoa.
You know what? She does love me to death, and I love her to death. And if I say anything more, this show's going to turn into a whole other thing. So, Kathy,
don't go blue, Kenny.
Kathy, where are you living? Are you in Vegas or L.A.?
I'm in Palm Springs right now.
Oh, that's right, Palm Springs. I'll find you. Always look over your left shoulder.
I will find you. Don't you worry.
I will find you.
I'm going to find you.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of years left. All right, you guys, take care. Right.
Thanks, Kenny.
Love you.
Bye. So much. Great stuff. Guys, what a great show. Kathy, I want to pick up a great drummer who's a part of this show, and his name is Matt Patella. I want to pick up Matt and see what... Matt, Joe Gans's Kathy Rich. What's up, brother?
Hey, how you doing, Joe? Hello, Kathy.
Hi, Matt.
I just love you guys. You guys are so great. Joe, this show is just great for the whole drumming community. And there's a lot of great information and great stories. And I'll tell you what, I love all you drummers.
Well,
and Kathy, you're an inspiration to me.
Too.
Well, I got about a couple of minutes before I pick up Charlie Adams and Billy Thunder Mason. But give me 2 minutes, real fast. I know you go back to all the old time greats and the guys of today. Buddy Rich. When I say that to you, a great drummer like yourself, Buddy Rich, what comes to mind?
What don't come to mind? That guy was the greatest in the world. I mean, you know, I don't want to be repetitive, everybody, but it's the truth. He was the greatest in the world, and I just love him. And every time I listen to him play, I learn something new, and I listen to him a lot. He's the greatest. And Kathy, I don't know, years ago, when I think it was one of the your shows that you did, the tribute to Buddy.
Yes.
You had an interview going on outside, and
Yes.
made me famous. You put me on one of the DVDs as an interview.
Oh.
Did I thank you for that?
Was it in
Everybody
New
says,
York?
you're the guy that's on. But I'll tell you, I just love him. His attitude, his tough guyness, his straight ahead. This is the way it's done with me.
That's it.
And I love
Right.
that about him. He pulls no punches. The man was great.
Great
And
stuff.
The truth.
And
Matt,
Joe, thank you for putting me on, Joe. I mean,
You got
I
it,
just
brother.
wanted to listen.
I got to get to my next guest, but guys, check out Matt Patella live lessons every week in .com. But Matt, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, thanks
Great
a lot.
meeting you, Matt.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Nice meeting you too, Kathy.
Kathy, the drummers just keep going. We have drummers from now till Friday on the line. Let's pick up two great drummers, and I'm sure, I think both of them are good friends of yours. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show the great Charlie Adams and Billy Thunder Mason.
Woo-hoo!
Charlie, you there?
I'm here. I just got in the door.
Nice, bro.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Kathy.
How are you,
I
sweetheart?
saw Kathy in Chicago, Joe.
Great.
We just got to see each other like a month or two ago, and it was so wonderful.
Is Billy
Yeah.
there, too? Billy, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Billy's here. How's it
Hi,
going,
Billy.
We got
Hey,
Billy
Kathy.
on the line, too.
How are you?
Good. Good to hear your voice.
Hey, good to hear your voice. How is everything?
Thank you. That's going great. Thank you so much.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm happy to hear that.
Guys, we're
Thank
talking to Kathy Rich. We got Billy Mason and Charlie Adams. Charlie, I heard you say when you did these things with Yanni, I forget the words you said, Buddy put so much meaning to my life. Give me a couple of more on that, what you meant.
Well, he's the reason. Besides, it was a combination of Buddy and Ringo Starr. I saw Ringo Starr on the Ed Sullivan Show with the Beatles, and I saw Buddy Rich on Johnny Carson, and that's why I started playing. You see these people, and they just inspire you, and and of course it was more Buddy than anybody else, and I was just happy that the thing that he taught me too is I was a young kid. I was a young teenager, and he got me into big band swing. So not only was I listening to all the rock bands, but if it wasn't for Buddy Rich, I don't think I would have been as educated to listen to Duke Ellington and Count Basie and Stan Kenton and Maynard Ferguson. It wasn't that, Buddy not only was my favorite drummer, but he introduced me to a music that's America. It was just I'm just so happy that happened.
Great,
Yeah,
great stuff.
and I think that's really, the thing with Buddy is that, it inspires you to the point of where you want to go back, and that was his point with telling me about, keeping his legacy alive, which was for kids, if you love John Bonham, if you love Carl Palmer, if you like, I can go down the list. If you love Charlie Adams, you go back and you see that, all of these people were inspired by someone. But who was Buddy inspired by? So, yes, it does make you go back. You listen to Basie, you listen to Ellington, you listen to Ella Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I mean, Buddy talked about Papa Joe Jones. He talked
Absolutely.
about Chick Webb. He talked about all the people that Gene Krupa. I mean,
Sure.
if it wasn't for Gene, he opened up the door for all the drummers too, and then Buddy came in and took it to another level. I don't think anybody pushed a big band better than him, and definitely he was. And definitely, I can say this with no reservation. I don't think anybody could solo better than him, because his solos were so interesting. I hear a lot of technical drummers today, and they all have really good chops, but they don't seem to have the soul that Buddy had. He played more. I don't know. He just had more soul, and he had more his phrasings. It wasn't just about how fast he could play. It was about the phrasing. His solos were a story. He was telling a story. It's like he was giving a sermon to you. And you
That's
just
exactly
were,
right. And it's funny because he would say a solo should have a beginning, a middle, and an end, at like a book. And so when whatever he was feeling emotionally was coming out in his music. And so if you heard, he never played the same solo twice. He may do, the rim thing or certain, cymbal things that were, expected. But if you listen to, a whole bunch of solos, you're never going to hear the same thing twice because his emotion was different every time he played.
Yeah,
so,
that was.
That's the
I
difference
totally
today.
agree.
That's
the
the difference.
Yeah, he's got so many different solos, and you can tell he was playing from the heart. And there was certain signature licks that sometimes you heard, and you said, "Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, there's a Buddy lick," but his solos were like a great speech. It was like listening to Abraham Lincoln say the Gettysburg Address or something.
He was basically telling you how he was feeling that night. That's what he was telling you in his solo.
Great.
Absolutely.
I want to pick up Billy Mason, but 1 second, Billy. I want to welcome to the show the ambassador to the drumming world, the great Dom Famularo. Dom, Joe Gansas, Kathy Rich, Charlie Adams, Billy Thunder Mason. We might even have Buddy on the line. Who knows?
I think Buddy's next.
I am so inspired to hear everyone talk. And Joe, what we have, one of the legacies that Buddy has given us, he gave us Kathy Rich, that we can still have a bit of Buddy with us, even though he's been gone for 29 years. So that's wonderful.
Thank you, Dom. How are you, darling?
I'm wonderful. Still traveling and doing my thing. But I've loved all of these stories about Buddy. There's a magic about Buddy that will last the sense of time. As long as there is music to be heard, Buddy's name will always be the standard that everybody measures their performing at.
Dom,
well,
if
can I interrupt you for 1 second,
yes,
Joe?
Go ahead.
I have to tell you one quick thing that I'm sure a lot of people probably aren't aware of is the reason there is and was and it began a Buddy Rich Memorial event was because of Dom Famularo and a man named Jerry Rickey from the Long Island Drum Center. And they came to me right after Buddy passed away, and I was kind of, still in shock and, kind of still sitting in a closet trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And they came to me, and they were so wonderful and so sweet and so respectful and loved Buddy so much. And we all kind of sat down, and I said, my dad asked me to do these things, and I don't really know how to do them or what to do. And we all sat and came up with the idea of doing these concerts. And I don't think a lot of people know that Dom was, the person that kind of inspired me to do those things.
That's great.
What
great
fun.
stuff.
What great fun those events were. And as always, Kathy, your dad did two things to many, many people. He inspired them, and he intimidated them.
Exactly.
And he inspired them that you wanted to go play the drums, but he intimidated you to realize how hard you had to work at the drums to try to achieve your own level. So it was a constant blend of pushing yourself to new levels, because whenever you heard Buddy, you were just fired up to want to jump on your drums.
Absolutely.
That is true.
I want to bring on Billy Mason. Billy, Dom Famularo, we're talking to Charlie Adams, Kathy Rich. How you doing, Billy? I know you got a story about Buddy. You want to give us a couple of minutes on Buddy Rich?
Sure. I met Buddy when I was 14 years old at Disneyland. And my dad was actually there doing a story for one of the local newspapers, and he just happened to catch Buddy on a great night, I guess, because he walked up to Buddy and said, "Hey, my son's a drummer. He'd love to meet you." Buddy said, "Sure." He said, "Bring him up on my drums. Let him sit on my drum kit." And the place was packed full of people. And I could hear people in the front row saying, "Oh, my God, who's this kid? He's the luckiest kid in the world. And here I am sitting on Buddy's kid, and he's standing over me. And again, I'm getting this picture. And I've never ever seen a picture of anybody on Buddy's kit. But he was just the nicest man to me that night, and was just so kind. And I've heard all kinds of stories about Buddy's anger issues, but he was so kind to me. I couldn't thank him enough, and because of that, it made me want to work that much harder to be like Buddy Rich. And when I played to this day, I believe Buddy plays through me, and I was very honored, and will never ever forget that night. as long as I live.
Beautiful.
Now,
That's so cool.
Go ahead, Kathy.
Billy's actually sent me that picture, and it's so adorable. And here's this kid sitting behind the kid at Disneyland, and Buddy's standing over him, and it's really an adorable picture.
I know. Well, my dad went and saw him the night before and said that Buddy was wearing this, medallion and a certain kind of clothes. So I tried to dress like him when I went and saw him. And so I'm not sure if Buddy got a kick out of me wearing a medallion like him or what, but I was wearing my Beetle boots and bell bottoms and I think he just thought I was a cute kid. But I mean, what a experience meeting him. But then for him to invite me up to his drum kit, I'm not sure how many kids ever got to experience that.
He didn't do that a lot. He didn't really do that much. So you're one of the lucky ones. Yes.
Charlie Adams.
Yeah, Joe.
Charlie Adams. When we watch Buddy, I was talking before about the command. Talk to me about a drummer. How important is it for that drummer to almost be like a catcher on a baseball team, in control of everything? And nobody did it better than Buddy.
Well, I mean, I've never seen a great jazz band or a great rock band with a mediocre drummer.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the cornerstone. Those two musics are so rhythmic and stuff, and so you better have a good bass player and a good drummer in those bands, or you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's true.
That is
true.
Well, Buddy,
I mean, all my favorite rock bands and all my favorite jazz bands had just great bass players and great drummers. The rhythm section had to be there. Otherwise, the music didn't work. So, yeah, for sure. I mean, gosh, that's why Buddy was. There's so many great big band swing drummers. I took lessons with Eddie Shaughnessy, and I actually got some lessons from Joe Morello in New York, and Louis Bellson. They all were just great big band jazz drummers. But I think Buddy was the most powerful. He just seemed to drive the band. He was a Ferrari. I don't know. He just was meant to do that. That was his music.
I was just going to say, he was just born to do what he did. And, people try to, I'm going to try and figure it out, and I'm going to try to break it down, and I'm going to slow down the thing, and I'm going to speed it up. And there's just, there are certain people that are just born to do what they were here to do. And he was one of them, and there'll never be another one of him. I mean, that's it.
To me, no, I totally agree. It's like Michael Jordan in basketball. He was just meant to do it.
Mm-hmm.
He was just one of these people that came along, and that's what he was supposed to do.
That's
absolutely.
Kathy, to me, Buddy was a gift. He was a gift from God, and we'll never have another one like him.
Great.
Absolutely
Great
true.
stuff.
And his talent came. That's absolutely true. His talent came from God, and that's the only way you can explain. How here, all these years later, it's almost, 29 years since he's been gone, and here we are still, talking about his greatness, and that is a true artist, and that's all you can really say about it, is that he was born to do what he did, and he came through this world, and he did it, and he changed all of our lives, and that's it.
Yeah, it's still a gift. God gave us that gift of Buddy to carry on forever, and we're very, very blessed.
Hard to believe it's been 29 years.
Yeah.
29 years.
My gosh.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. In
Billy,
April, it'll be 29 years.
Billy Mason,
wow.
Charlie Adams, I can't thank you guys for calling. I know you guys are busy as usual. Thank you, Billy Mason, and thank you, Charlie Adams.
Thank you.
But Joe, I just got back from Arabia.
I know.
Arabia.
I was in Arabia, Jordan, and Turkey. I just flew in today. I just flew for 27 hours. I just got in about an hour ago.
Get some sleep, bro.
And boy, are my arms tired.
Well, guys, thank you for letting me be.
I can't thank you so much. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you, guys.
Love you, Billy. Love you, Charlie.
Kathy, it's great hearing your voice again.
Very well, guys. Safe travel.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Let's keep a Dom on the line. Dom, you still there, bro?
Dom.
I'm saying, Joe, you were talking before about Buddy's individuality and his magic. Think about, I always say, I compare Buddy to someone like Mozart. And I say that because at a young age, Mozart already had control over his skills, as did Buddy. Buddy was probably 2 years old and already the breadwinner of the family. So he already had these skills at such an incredibly young age. And here we are, 300 years after Mozart's death, and we still use Mozart as a standard. And it will be that way with Buddy. It will always be that way with Buddy as a standard in modern drum set that is just unseen anything in the music industry.
Guys, I like to stay with the program. We got so many drummers. It gives me great pleasure. This is like a revolving door. This is just a great focus. It gives me great pleasure to welcome the first lefty to tonight's show, and that is the great Rod Morgenstein.
Yeah.
Rod, Joe Gansett. What's up, Rod?
Hey, Kathy.
Hi, Rod.
Yeah, Rod.
Hey, Dom. Hey, Joe.
How are you, brother?
I'm doing well. This is awesome.
Isn't it fun? We're having a great time.
Okay, so I have to tell a story, okay, as it relates, Kathy, to your dad and the Burning for Buddy recording.
Yes.
I had been overseas for a couple of weeks, and I wasn't home 10 minutes when the phone rang, and I believe it was you and Steve Arnold calling me, to tell me you'd been in contact with Neil Peart, and he had this idea, to kind of keep your dad's name alive and actually, expose his music and big band music, to the audience of rock musicians, and so I remember when you said, and so the concept is, to invite a bunch of drummers to come into New York City and play a tune with the Buddy Rich Big Band, and with that, I can't recount ever having like a bigger knot in my stomach in terms of being like terrified beyond belief, and so on the one hand, of course, it was such an honor getting the phone call and being asked to be a part of it, and then when I hung up, my wife Michelle walked in the room.
Oh no!
It looked like I had seen a ghost, and she went, "Is everything okay? What happened?" So I told her about the phone call that I just had from you guys, and I said, I'm so honored that they even thought of me, but I hope I'm on tour, with the Dixie Dregs or one of my bands, or I have to figure out how to get out of this, because there's no way I can face that big band in a recording studio and do this, and there was silence, and she looked at me and she said, Rod, remember something? And I said, what? And she said, you're a man, right?
A, yes.
And so,
and B.
Right, and so I kind of wimped back to her. That's right, I'm a man. So I have to do this, right? And she said, of course you're going to do this, And so that's how the whole thing got started. And so, I just remember, trying to project what the moment would be like, sitting, at my drum set, facing the band to do this. And really, until the moment itself happened, it was 4 months of, worry, excitement, at the same time, excitement and really being worried, just, hoping that I'd be able to come to the party. I hadn't really, played with a big band since high school or college, so it had been really 20 years prior. And so I think any artist or musician, most have moments of self-doubt. You kind of question who you are and what you're made of, and so it was one of the most exhilarating experiences of my life, I do have to say. But there was another part to the story, and I think all of this was told by Neil in the making of Burning for Buddy. And in fact, when I watched my segment, I looked on
you know, like when Homer Simpson goes, dope!
Yes.
Because apparently during the day when I was recording, my wife Michelle, who knew Neil, was off in a corner talking with him, and I didn't know what they were talking about. So she goes ahead and tells him that whole scenario, and he found it so funny. So then he puts it in the clip, you know.
Of course.
But I guess in the end, it's okay to kind of, you know, humble yourself.
Yeah.
But so
and FYI, I mean, he came in and just nailed it. So there you go. You know,
You
you always
sound
are.
wonderful.
Everyone's going to doubt. You know, when you're asked to be put on the spot like that, and certainly in a situation like that where you know everyone's kind of staring at you, like, oh, let's see who's up next, right?
Exactly.
And so he came in and was absolutely perfect. So that's
Guys,
all you can say about that.
We are talking to co-hosts tonight. Kathy Rich on the line is the great Dom Famularo and the great Rod Morgenstein. Dom, if you can, you got like 10 minutes. Can you please tell the story again? I know you've seen Buddy over 200 times. You were friends with him. The story when you first met him, it's just so great and it's legendary. Can you please share that again?
Absolutely, Joe. You know, first of all, Rod, you know, when I had heard the recording that you had played, it was so inspiring and still is inspiring. That's part of the requirements that my students have to listen to that recording. And you really played great on it. You really, really did, Rod.
He did.
Thank you. Thanks.
Really. We in 1971, I first met Buddy Rich, and Al Miller was a very well-known local teacher here in Long Island. And what many people didn't know is that Al Miller was in the Marines with Buddy for 2 years. And they had met there. They were very, very close together. And whenever Buddy would come into town, into the New York and Long Island area, he would call up Al, and they'd get together. Well, I had worked with Al for about 4 or 5 years, and Al really appreciated my dedication to learning as a student. And here I am. I'm like 18 years old, and Al says to me, "I want you to come over to my house and meet a Buddy friend of mine." I had no idea that Al had really known Buddy. And he said, "I want you to meet a Buddy friend." Now, I'm thinking a buddy like we call, like Rod's my buddy. You know, I'm just figuring, we're going to hang up with some guy and we're going to have fun. So Al says, "Come on by, bring some wine over." So on the next day that I'm going to Al's house, I'm running by. And Al lived near a club in Long Island called Fort Peters. And I'm riding by this club called Fort Peters, and they had jazz there all the time, big band jazz. And I'm riding by, and that night I see, tonight, the Buddy Rich Big Band. So I'm going, wow, Buddy Rich's Big Band is here, like 2 blocks from Al's house. I'm going to go buy a few tickets and bring some tickets. So I buy 3 tickets, front row center, to Buddy Rich, and then I drive to Al's house, looking to excite him about the fun that we're going to have this evening. I walk in the house, and I said, Al, I am so excited. Have I got a surprise for you? He turns to me and says, "Have I got a surprise for you?" I walked in the house, and I turned, and Al's house, kind of like his living room was kind of up a few steps once you walked in. I walked up those steps, and Buddy is standing there at the top of the steps. And I'm looking at this, and I walk in, and Al says, "Dom, I want you to meet Buddy Rich, and Buddy, this is my young student, Dom." So as I'm shaking Buddy's hand, and I turned to Al, I said, "Al, this is not a Buddy. This is the Buddy." It's huge freaking difference in how you explain somebody. And Buddy thought that was just so funny. And we sat down. Al had cooked some steaks. We ate, and I just sat and listened to their stories of many, many years ago. And, of course, I had just seen Buddy a few nights earlier on the Carson show, so he was talking about that. It was just so surreal. So then at one point we're sitting there, and Buddy says, "Come on, we got to go to the gig." And I totally forgot about the gig. And I got these 3 tickets in my pocket. So Buddy says, "Come on, we'll get in my car." So Buddy had this, really high-end sports car, as he always had in the course of his life. He says, "Dom, you hop in the back seat." And there really was no back seat, but I kind of got in anyway. I get in, and I said, as we're in this car, we're driving, Buddy's driving the car with Al in the passenger seat. We're going around, and we're only going a few blocks to the Fort Peters. And I said, "Boy, guys, I didn't really know I was going to meet the Buddy, so I bought 3 tickets to the show, and I got these 3 tickets on me." And Buddy turned to me and said, "Well, how stupid is that? You're going to sit backstage with Al. Give me the tickets." So I kind of reach in my pants. I hand the tickets up to Buddy. He pulls into the front of Fort Peters, where there's a lineup of people waiting to buy tickets. He gets out of the car, walks to the last 3 people in the line, gives them my tickets, and says, "I'll see you front row center." People are complete. People are shocked. Buddy gets back in the car. We drive around the back, and Buddy pulls in the back. We go backstage. He puts 2 folding chairs to the side of the stage, off stage, right where his drum set was on stage left, and we sat there. That was my first experience hearing Buddy that close and that live. One of many, many times. And, backstage you met, great band leaders like Duke Ellington and Count Basie, Stan Kent. They all came backstage. And then you met all the great drummers. Gadd was back there, Carl Palmer. You met Louis Bellson, Max Roach, all the great drummers had come to see Buddy. And the third was the Rat Pack. Right? I mean, Kathy, Jerry Lewis at one of the shows was there. Jerry Lewis, not only was he a great drummer, but if I'm not mistaken, is he your godfather?
He is indeed, yes.
Wow.
So think about, it doesn't get any bigger than Jerry Lewis, and Jerry Lewis is backstage, tapping his foot. It was incredible. At one show, Sinatra came backstage, walks back. We were at like a high school someplace in Queens, in Buddy's playing, and Sinatra comes in with a couple of his bouncers that he had with him, comes in and sees Buddy, gives him a hug. It just so backstage at a Buddy show, you didn't know what to expect, and that's really where the adventure began. Really amazing.
Dom, if I can, Dom, you've seen him over 200 times, and we're talking to the great Dom Famularo and the great Rod Morgenstein with my co-host Kathy Rich. You've seen him over 200 times. Did Buddy ever let you down live?
The standard that Buddy had, now imagine, when I say over 200 times, and I'm very serious about that, because Al Miller, constantly, we were in the East Coast. We'd go to shows on Long Island and New York City and Jersey. We drove to Connecticut. We went up to Boston many times, to Leonard and the Turnpike, and we'd go there to see Buddy. So every single show that we would see, every single show would leave us with our jaw down. And there was one I went to Buddy's place once and saw him play 6 nights a week, 2 shows a night.
Wow.
And every show blew us away. Not like, it blew us away. Every show, there was never a show that I walked away saying, oh man, Buddy didn't have it tonight. He had it every night at such a high level, consistently, at such a standard, that when you walked away, you really ended up walking away with your head in your hand saying, I cannot believe what I just witnessed.
Kathy, did your dad warm up ever, or was he just such a natural that he would sit down and do what he did?
I will tell you what he said when people asked him how he warmed up. He said, and I quote, I take my hands out of my pockets.
He said to me one day, he said, because Al Miller had asked him that question. He goes, "Buddy, you going to warm up at all?" And he turned to Al and he said, "When you get out of bed, do you warm up walking?" That's great. That's really kind of how Buddy saw it. It was such a way of life. All of his life.
And I don't think a lot of people ask me the questions of, well, did you have drums in the house? Did he practice? Did he, and people don't realize that he didn't do any of those things. He never practiced. He played 300 days a year, so that pretty much was that. You would never know that a drummer lived in our house. We did not have drums in the house. There were no sticks in the house. There was nothing that would lead you to believe that, he lived there. So
that's
no,
incredible.
that's what he did. That's not who he was.
Right. Yeah.
That was that.
That's why I say that the Mozart connection, where you have this young, talented, genius. Sinatra said that, when Buddy had passed away. He said, Buddy had no idea he was a freaking genius.
Yeah, he had no clue.
Yeah, he had no clue.
And when you asked him, and people would say, well, how do you do that? And he would be like, well, how do you do that?
Sure.
It's born in you, so you can't explain it.
There was one story
it's pretty incredible.
There was one story that Buddy had shared with us that was poignant. We were backstage one day at a club called Jupiter's in Franklin Square. The club is no longer there, but we used to play there a lot. They had a wonderful stage, and Buddy liked the sound of the place and just loved the stage and the vibe that was there. And he was talking about, he was the opening act when he was young for George M. Cohan. Now, George M. Cohan was a huge celebrity back in the early 1900s, and he was actually the guy that started the entire Broadway concept. When you go to Times Square, the beginning of where Broadway is in New York City, there's a statue for George M. Cohan. He was Mr. Broadway. He's the guy that started that concept. He was in the theaters, and he used to have all these phenomenal. If you ever watch the movie Yankee Doodle Dandy with James Cagney, that's the story of life of George M. Cohan. George M. Cohan was huge. He was bigger than Michael Jackson in his heyday. It was unbelievable. And Buddy was the opening act. Now you got to understand the power of that. And in the pit for George M. Cohan, the three drummers that Cohan used to use regularly was either Billy Gladstone, George Lawrence Stone, who wrote the book Stick Control, or Sanford Moeller. So those were three types of movements. Gladstone was into finger movement, Stone was into wrist movement, and Moeller was into this arm and whip motion. So Buddy had said he had the opportunity of sitting in the pit, watching these guys play these shows.
That's right.
And he would kind of almost like osmosis, watch the movement, and then when he went up to perform on stage, he'd start to experiment with it. So he was exposed to the best of the best. He was around the best talent. And Buddy, let me tell you something, was a phenomenal tap dancer. Phenomenal tap dancer. Buddy was a great singer. Buddy was an absolute showman. He could tell jokes and stories that would have you on the edge of your seat. So this is a master vaudevillian entertainer that could do it all phenomenally. And he said to me one day, he said, when you went on stage, if you tap danced and the audience didn't like your tap dancing, you sang a song. If they didn't like the way you sang the song, you told a joke. If they laughed at your joke, that night you were a comedian.
That's right. That's absolutely.
That's a heavy skill. That's a heavy skill to have.
Absolutely true.
If I can, guys, I just want to thank Rod Morgenstein. Rod, thank you so much for coming on my show again. We had a great interview 2 months ago. You're just an even better person than a drummer, and I can't thank you enough, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. It's an honor, really.
Thank you, Rod.
Nice to hear your voice, Kathy, and you too, Dom. Hope everybody's doing great.
Hopefully.
Great to hear you. Stay well.
All righty.
Great.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Guys, we're talking to the great Dom Famularo and Kathy Rich, and we welcome the current drummer for the Buddy Rich Big Band, the great Greg Potter.
Greg who?
I'm right over in the next room.
We know. On the other side of the house.
Greg, it's wonderful to hear your voice.
So who do I have here? I have Joe, Dom, and the girl in the other room.
The blonde-headed chick. The blonde chick.
That's me.
The girl. I got the blonde chick in the chick in the blonde in the swimming pool, or is she in the other room?
Yeah.
Where is she?
I'm in the other room right now.
Greg, I just want to tell you, Greg, your Kathy was hit on tonight on live air by Kenny Arnoff.
Oh God.
He hit on her.
Did he stop lifting weights to hit on her, or is he practicing his single stroke rolls? Was it Kenny Aronoff, or did Dave Weckel happen to mention that he's able to play the Moeller technique and recite Billy Gladstone poetry? Which one got? Oh my gosh! And then what did Charlie Adams invite her to Arabia? Who was that? What's going on here? I step out of the room to maybe just get myself a bagel or something, and all of a sudden it sounds like Match.com. And after listening to you guys talk about Buddy Rich, what am I going to do? Thank God Dom just said what to do is if your drumming's not working, tell a joke. I better learn to be pretty funny. Holy cow. Thank Buddy Rich for so now you guys are telling me I've got to learn how to tap dance?
Hey,
I can't take this.
Well, let me start with Dom, because I've interviewed Greg already, and we had a great conversation twice already. Dom, to be serious, Greg does a tremendous job conveying the drummer as the drummer in the Buddy Rich Band. But I want you to ask Greg a question about his role in the Buddy Rich Band.
Absolutely, and thank you. First of all, Greg, I have heard, I've seen some footage of what you have done and what you are doing with the band. And I got to tell you something. You are in one of the toughest situations, but you're doing a double thing. You're honoring Buddy, and you're keeping the music alive. And that's a very powerful seat to sit in. And you're doing it great. Every performance, people walk away inspired. So you're successful at it. But I got to ask you, what was it like the first time you sat behind that band in front of an audience and you're hearing these tunes like, you know, Big Swing Face and all these great songs that Buddy just laid it down. How did you feel? You know, was it surreal? Was it like an out-of-body experience?
Yeah, I mean, that, you know, I'm not very serious very often.
Oh, God.
And I think that could possibly be what even allowed this thing to work the way it is. Because I know, thank you for the wonderful words, but I did notice not once did you mention the drumming technique. It's that I'm keeping the music alive, and that I'm, thank God you showed up with a Buddy Rich t-shirt on. I like that, Dom. That was pretty, I like the way you danced around. Not like, hey, Greg, I'm glad to see that you were able to play a friggin' role sometime in Nutville. But that's cool. I like that. Thanks a lot.
What's amazing is you swing your ass off, and that's not an easy thing to do, and you do it well.
Thank you.
Don't underestimate that for sure.
Because
not that I'm pandering for compliments or anything.
I was just going to say, not that I'm fishing for compliments, but I've got rubber waders on right now, and I'm standing in the pool like Brad Pitt in A River Runs Through It. I've got Angela Jolie, and I'm beating her kids right now. But getting back, no, Dom, no, you're right, because I'm hearing all these stories, you know, from just all the drummers. You have great stories of seeing Buddy, meeting Buddy. I got to see him. I did get to really see him play, and that the thing that I'm living through, you know, because however amazing stories are, I mean, I'm talking to you from Buddy's, you know, from the house, you know, from Buddy's nieces, you know, I mean, saying these stories are like, it's not like in the past. I'm like living it. So let's fast forward, or not fast forward, or rewind, whatever. You asked me what it was like to sit in that band. I'm saying I think I was like stupid enough that I didn't even take in. I didn't realize it. Like, I mean, I shouldn't say that, but I'm just saying it's just amazing. It's an unbelievable feeling to be able to, because I not only got to play Buddy's music, but I played it with the men that, you know, Chuck Finley was on my left. You know what I mean? Absolutely. I had Alan Kaplan, you know, in the Bones. I had Greg Smith, Bob Bowlby. I mean, these men, you're not fooling around, and you're not going to fool them. You know what I mean? Like, yes, if you're in a, you know what I mean? Like, if you're in a Kiss tribute band, yeah, you could probably do whatever you want, because you each got the makeup on your face and you're jumping around. But if Gene Simmons were there, or Paul Stanley, you might go, hey, I better make sure I'm doing, I don't know why I'm using a Kiss reference. Maybe it's because we're all talking to New Yorkers. But either way, oh, good. Potter showed up and started bringing up Kiss. Yeah, it looks like that jazz runs really deep. No, but I'm just trying to say it's so ridiculous. It's well, you know what I mean. I can't talk about it now and go, God, it'd be like if Stan Kenton showed up. You know what I mean? Buddy is so big, especially the drummers, and this music is so big that the first time those real men start blowing Nutville next to me, and I'm sitting there with the replica drum set and the pants that are too tight and the fancy hairdo and the drumsticks with his name on them. You know what I mean? You get everything. It's kind of like, you know, you've got all the stuff, but you just have to hold your breath and go. And I believe the first real gig I played was the London Palladium. I mean, my drum set, I didn't even have the Buddy, you know, the drum kit, because that was another thing that Kathy and I talked about. You know, it's like, if you're going to play those Buddy tunes, don't show up with the fusion outfit or something. I mean, you got to play that Buddy kit, you know. I mean, that would be okay. Okay, so I have, you know, I got that, you know, the Ludwig boxes showed up in London. I mean, I didn't even have the drum kit. So, I mean, the first thing, and then to put on top of that, so the first gig, you're playing this Buddy music with Buddy's bands, and then you've got stage left, you have Dave Weckl with his arms crossed, staring you down. I don't know if he was hitting on Kathy at that point, but he was probably asking her what hotel she was at. But it didn't matter, because I was in London with my parents, and my dad would have fought my own battle, or fought my battles for me. Stage right, I got Ian Pace from Deep Purple, behind me Gavin Harrison, and then I've just got a mad Ginger Baker pacing in front of the auditorium trying to fire the band between hits. So I get up there, and the first tune, I'm sound, we're doing like a sound check kind of deal, but I've got all those, and then you've got Kathy too, because you have to add that into the mix here. You don't have Buddy, but you could fool Rod Morgenstein some of the time, and maybe even trick a little Charlie Adams, but you're not going to trick Kathy ever. So I get up there and I start doing a little something, and I'm telling you, you drummers know this. Did you ever hold on to the sticks and your hands start shaking, or your hands and legs start shaking to the point of like you don't feel like you're hitting down on stuff? Unfortunately, I did it in front of Dave Weckl, hitting on Kathy, Gavin Harrison hitting on me. Luckily, John Blackwell didn't even know what planet he was on. He was the only guy I could look at and go, "Am I killing this or what, dude?" Because he's like, "Didn't show up yet." So it was okay, but playing this music with those real guys, I don't know how to compare it and not to sound like I'm like gloating over it, but it's absolute. I really whatever you think it is, it is. It's like living a dream because I loved, unfortunately I think Buddy recorded one album called The Roar of '74. Right. So, it was, but I'm saying when you get to really hear, because like Alan Kaplan, he really recorded that album. We had Tony Levin playing bass. He really played bass, not in London, but I get to play, I'm playing these charts with the men that, not all the guys, but they really recorded this stuff. So I'm just saying, they'll give you feedback on, plus or minus or something, because none of us are going, or at no point am I looking at it like, boy, I'm nailing it like Buddy. There's no one that does Buddy like Buddy.
What you're doing, Greg, what you're doing, which is so great, is you are putting your personality with that band in the honoring position of what Buddy's music was about, and that's the hardest thing, Greg. You're playing great, you're making it fun, it's entertaining. We hear the songs, you're keeping the energy level high. That's all not easy to do, especially when you're in front of the Spanish Inquisition, which is Weckl and all those guys. Yeah. Which is really what it's like. They're ready for you to take the freaking headlock. I mean, bring it on.
Well, Greg, you've been doing it for a while now. Are you at a point where you could actually relax a little bit back there and just say, I'm here, I got to just do what I got to do, or are you still, are you worried about things, or are you just relaxed and at a good place?
I'm at the point where I'm, again, asking my parents if I can move back into their home. I can just get a little more dough out of this thing, and then I'm going to go back to, like, maybe a karaoke band, something a little easier.
Honestly, Joe, you don't know Greg Potter, and the word "relax" does not enter his vocabulary.
Right.
So no,
I am
yet relaxed into the gig.
No. Well, and like we just found out, as you had to tell me, like when I got on here, that now when I show up to gigs, I just saw there's another drummer, the guy from Journey. He's taken my gig. So it's like, it's really, I can't even play in my own Buddy Rich band that Kathy owns. People steal the whole band from me. So there's really there's no rest for the wicked. I'm going to actually start a Journey tribute band and call it.
There you go. Call it.
You know what I'm saying? I'm going to call it Journey, and I'm just going to shave my head.
But
yes.
What's amazing about it, Grant, is that we're perpetuating Buddy's name and Buddy's spirit, and it's much bigger than all of us together. And Kathy, we talked about this before, and it really is a matter of giving people the chance that when they hear the music, when I hear the music, it brings me back 30, 40, 50 years, literally. But when I heard the music and it had the biggest impression on me, the songs, the way it's being played, the musicianship, the high standard Buddy always had with the band. Listen, one of the people that was speaking before had mentioned about Buddy being angry. And I never saw Buddy as being angry. What I saw Buddy as being is having the highest level of dedication to his audience that you better have played your best. And there's no excuse that when you walk on that stage that you could have given him that could have had at all changed his mind. You had to play great. And if you were tired or you were a little off your game, he didn't want to hear that because he was never tired and never off his game. Ever.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, right. And yeah, that's what I don't know that people don't really understand, be it drummers or people that listen to, how was Buddy so, he was down on this or he was in a bad. Think of the level that Buddy played at, and how could he not expect his men all the time? Like, who was with Dom? Were you telling the story? You saw him 200 times, or you saw him whatever?
All the time.
You never saw him like on a bad. Right. It's okay for a $100 million a year athlete to say I'm in a slump or I don't feel good or I'm not hitting a home run. Buddy Rich not only hit home runs, he won the game and gave you the he gave you the pennant. Every game he gave you the pennant. Whereas that's usually how it is. People don't keep themselves up to a level that, and that's part of the magic of Buddy. That whenever I talk about what it is that you got from the man, is just he was always at his best, and it's playing wise. I don't know, personally. That's none of our business, all that stuff really. But when you would go see that man sit behind those drums, it made you want to either jump around your drum set or sell them.
It's amazing. There's some video footage on YouTube of a Buddy Rich clinic, and in the beginning of it, and I'm not sure what it's called, but I'm introducing Buddy on that clip, and I remember backstage that day where that was, that I said to Buddy, Buddy, who do you look up to in other industries, in other fields? Who do you look up to? And Buddy was a real baseball guy, and he turned to me and he said, listen, there were two guys that I always used to watch play. And he talked about Babe Ruth, and he talked about Lou Gehrig. Well, it doesn't get any more deeper than in the baseball industry. Those two names, as long as there's baseball, there will be those names. And Buddy kind of used that kind of energy. He kind of took that energy when he played from different fields. It was amazing. I mean, even as a black belt in karate, he was a skilled martial artist. And there were so many things he did great. He was also a great tennis player. I once saw him play tennis with Carl Palmer, and he demolished Carl Palmer.
Yeah.
It was incredible. He just completely outplayed Carl Palmer, and Buddy was probably maybe 64 at the time. Incredible. Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Great stuff.
Yes.
Good
stuff.
Stuff.
Unbelievable.
Well, Greg, I got to keep with the show, but I want to say thank you so much, man, for calling. You're doing a great job. But keep up the great work, and don't forget about Kenny Yarnoff hitting on Kathy. We'll take care of that for you later on. I'll send Big Louie over.
I was just going to say, can't one of you New Yorkers take care of him for me or something?
I just sent Big Louie over there. Yeah. I got it.
That's what I'm saying. Dom, you must know somebody. So, or Kenny's he's a California guy now. He prance around and drinks those weird green drinks. Come on, go tune that guy up a little bit. Man, everywhere I go, I don't need security for me. I need security to keep people from her.
Say goodnight,
I gotta
Greg.
go. I'm going to Dairy Queen right now. If you guys want anything, I'm going to bring something back. See you guys later. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much.
And thank you guys. Thank you. And Dom, I love you. And next time, kind of give a compliment that says something that I really knew what I was doing on those drums. watch one of them and go, Greg, I like the ride cymbal thing. It's a little heavy on the bass drum, but I like your ride cymbal.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, buddy. Bye-bye, JoJo. Bye-bye.
Greg plays his ass off, and he's so humble about it.
He wouldn't shut up. Shut up.
Out of his mind.
Shut up.
He's mentally ill.
God. Oh, my God.
He's only in therapy
Guys,
2 days a week now, but I think we're going to up it to 3 or 4.
We are awaiting the great Nick Rich call any second. I am waiting for him. We've had great drummers on. We are on a line with Kathy and the great Dom Famularo. We have anybody from Dave Weckl so far. text Nick if he can call now. That'd be great.
Where is Nick? He's in the other room. Let me go get him.
If you could just tell him to give him a call.
I'll tell a quick story about
Tell
Nick.
Nick he's up. He's up his bat right now.
Nick is
hilarious.
I had met Nick when he sat on Buddy's lap when he was just about maybe not even a year old, and to say the fact that Buddy was enlightened and lifted and euphoric about having a grandson was beyond comprehension. Really, Buddy
he
was really
crazy about Nicholas. I mean, I also I mentioned that these recordings have surfaced from London, and he talks about Nick on these recordings. He was 2 years old. It's incredible.
It was amazing how he just, and Kathy, you always gave your dad joy. And let's not underestimate how great Kathy sings. I mean, if we go back to the days of Kathy, you really kind of like being, active with the band singing, you sounded great. And again, you swung your ass off too.
Why?
When you
Thank you. And when we go out with the band, I host the evening, I sing, I get up there and, shake it around a little, and it's great. We have a great time. It's like no one thinks that they're bringing Buddy back. We think that we're in the spirit of Buddy, the energy of Buddy, the vibe of the band, and having a good time, just like he did.
That's
Guys,
great.
On the line right now. I'm sorry, Dom. On the line right now is the grandson of the legendary Buddy Rich, the great Nick Rich. What's up, Nick?
Joe, what's going on? I just want to, real quick, say I had no idea that Gilbert Godfrey was the new drummer for Buddy Rich Big Band.
Oh, my God. Nick, you're on the line with your mother and Dom Famularo. Your mother.
Uncle Dom, how you doing?
Nick, it's great to hear your voice, man. I hope you're well. That's great.
I am. Thank you so much. You as well.
Good boy. Good
Nick,
boy, man. Nick.
The grandson of the greatest drummer ever. Do you, when you play, when you're playing, is it a proud thing? Is it a thing of joy when you're actually playing? Do you think about him? What goes on in your mind when you're playing and doing a great job that you do?
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. For so many years as a younger drummer, I felt so much pressure to try to live up to that. But as I matured a little bit, I realized that there is no possible way myself or anybody is going to ever live up to the world's greatest drummer, Buddy Rich. So I just started playing what I like to play and just started trying to develop my own style. But, man, having Buddy as my grandfather is truly an inspiration and a blessing in itself. So I'm super grateful that I'm related to him, and he is just a constant inspiration to me as a person and as a musician as well.
Nick, when you watch all these videos of your father, what goes through your mind? When you see how he plays and how he has command of everything. What do you think of, and what do you attribute it all to?
Oh man, obviously, like my mom was saying earlier, it's a God-given talent. It's a God-given ability. Just his finesse and his smoothness when he played. The feel that he had when playing that music. Nobody can touch that. Nobody can touch the feel in which he drove that band with. So, I attribute it all to God ultimately because he started playing before he could walk. So, the God-given ability and talent is truly where it comes from.
When you watch, your grandfather plays, what do you like the most? Is it the hi-hat work? Is it left hand? Is it something that really grabs you? That you take to?
Well, as a younger drummer, obviously it was his speed and the way he just moved around the kit. But as I grow up and I listen to more of him, I realize, man, his feel and the way he swung that band is what it's all about. Obviously, his speed is amazing, was amazing, untouchable. but man, the way that he swung that band was timeless.
Absolutely. Guys, we're talking to the lovely and talented Kathy Rich. She's been my co-host, and we got a little more than an hour left. The ambassador, the great, legendary Don Famularo, and Nick Rich.
Nikki,
what has been the word? When people see you play, what's one of the things that they like the most about your playing and that you're proud of these days?
Well, usually when people watch me play, the first thing they comment on is my boyish good looks. Usually that's the first.
Oh boy, another one.
And then after they are in awe of my muscular physique, usually then it goes into my feel. No, when I play, I'm ultimately. What? I'm being honest here. I thought this was an honest program. No, ultimately, I mean, I think the best compliment that I could ever get is, man, you were grooving, or man, your grooves were tight, or you really blended with the band, or I mean, those are some of the best compliments I think I could ever get. I'm definitely not, Tony Royster or Buddy, but man, I try to play with the music. I try to play for the music. I'm not really a soloist. So ultimately, I think the best compliment that I could get is, man, you really groove tonight,
Kathy, you have any questions?
If I can jump in here for a second,
yes.
Nick, I am his mother, granted, but I also know talent, and I know what's good and I know what's not good. And Nick, to me, when he sits down behind the kit, he's got, again, with a command of the kit and a groove and a feel. And that's what's lacking in a lot of drummers. There's some great drummers out there, but to just sit down and bang around and I can play really fast, and no one really cares about that. If you can sit down and just get into that pocket and have a groove going and something that makes you move and tap your foot and want to dance, and that's really what it's about. And that's what I can say about Nick when he sits down behind that kit. It's a command of the instrument, like my father had. And, you just sit and you kind of go, it's like, wow, he really knows what he's doing, and it sounds amazing.
Tom, before I let Nick go, do you have any comments to Nick, Tom?
Yes,
thank you. One of the things that Buddy really was adamant about was individuality. He didn't like it when people copied him, and if anybody did kind of play his style, that used to really kind of annoy him, because Buddy worked his lifetime to create his sound. And Buddy respected people like Joe Morello, who had a very different sound. He respected people like Elvin Jones, who had a very different sound than what Buddy had. And Buddy really respected that. He didn't like it when people tried to copy his thing. And I think, Nick, that's what you've done, exactly what your grandfather wanted. You have developed your own sound and your own being, and that really is the essence of, I think, what Buddy was about. Be who you are, play what you do, and be a servant to the music, which is what Buddy always was.
And I also, if I can jump in here for a second, also what people don't know about Nick is that he taught himself. I mean, he has that ear like Buddy had, where he can play any instrument. He plays great guitar. He plays piano. He writes music. He's a great producer. His talent is immense, and it goes far beyond just being a drummer. But he has an ear, and he sings. He does everything, and that's a testament to whatever that gene that runs through our family. Nick definitely got it.
Great,
powerful, very powerful.
Nick, Rich, I can't thank you enough. We had a great conversation earlier this year. We talked about life and drums. You're a great human being, and keep doing what you're doing, bro. And don't forget, my show is home to you. Call whenever you want, but I can't thank you enough for chiming in tonight, brother.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Mother. I love you. And
love you.
See you soon, my
friend.
Get
in here and give me a kiss.
Oh, boy, that's weird. That's a little weird, Mommy.
That's a little weird, Mommy.
Okay, Mommy, here I come. Mom, I'm coming in to give you a kiss right now, honey.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks.
Good boy, Nick.
Great Nick Rich. Guys, we just keep going. I mean, all the drummers are on.
Keep it going, Joe.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome the second lefty to the show, and a guy who is just doing tremendous things in the jazz world. He is just conveying the story of jazz in a very different way. Great, great stuff. It gives me great pleasure to welcome back to Around the Kid, my friend, Daniel Glass. Daniel, Kathy Rich, Dom Famularo. What's up, brother?
Hey, everybody. How are you guys
Dan,
all
how you doing?
Good to hear your voice, Dom. Kathy, it's been, I think I saw you at NAMM and you and Greg last year, and I've been listening for about an hour, and I'm just having a blast. You guys are too much fun.
We are completely insane, so there you go.
Yes. Indeed. And Joe, I just want to say a great job as well. What you've done with your program is tremendous, and I think you've really, in a very short period of time, developed your own personality, and your shows are so much fun to be a part of. And you bring such a New York thing to the table. It's just great. So I'm very honored to be here.
Well, you deserve it, brother. We love what you're doing in the jazz world. Just great stuff. A guy who's in that field, who has, put so much time into the term jazz. And then, we say the word Buddy Rich. What pops into your head real fast? So many adjectives. But, what do you think of right away?
I know. It's hard because I think every superlative in the English language has been used, at least in the last hour since I've been listening. It's hard to find more of them. But I being that I'm kind of a historian, and there's a couple things maybe people haven't pointed out that I thought might be interesting to talk about. And the first thing that I would love that people maybe nobody's talked about this yet is a wonderful clip on YouTube of Buddy when he's 12 years old in 1929 playing Stars and Stripes Forever in the vaudeville circuit. And if you have not clip out, I strongly suggest that you go do it. Just punch in, Buddy Rich. I think the clip's called Traps the Drum Wonder, and put in Stars and Stripes Forever. To take people back to 1929, this is before the hi-hat was introduced, before the ride cymbal was introduced. Buddy used to start the show, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when he was a small boy, he would start behind a very large bass drum. Of course, they had big bass drums in those days, and he would be playing behind the bass drum. Nobody could see him, and that was part of the vaudeville gimmick, and he would do a tremendous solo from literally behind the kit, and then he would step out, and people would see there was a small kid doing this, and that's when people would be blown away. But the thing about what he's doing, I've been trying to unravel what is ragtime drumming, which is a style that predates jazz, but it was when they were starting to use a drum set and combine, all these techniques, Dom, you were talking about, the great, Billy Gladstone, Sanford Moeller, George Lawrence Stone. These were the guys that took marching and applied it to the drum set and made it swing and brought it into, hand technique and all that kind of stuff, and brought it into the realm of popular music, codifying, and especially in terms of a Broadway pit orchestra kind of thing. They were all very skilled, learned drummers. So the way I define ragtime drumming is essentially it is military drumming with a swing and a sense of improvisation. And, people don't really, we think, well, drum solos, that started with Gene Krupa in the 1930s, and before that, drummers were in the background, and they were just supposed to play quietly, play a dance beat. But there's a lot, sorry, my headphones came unplugged. There's a lot of examples of phenomenal ragtime drummers. These guys were masters of rudimental playing, and the things they were able to do on very primitive snare drums with calfskin heads and gut wires, strands of the snares, the precision, the crispness. So when you go listen to Buddy play this as a 12-year-old, talk about what you were talking about, Dom, that he just, through osmosis, just brought in what these masters were creating and puts it all together. It's like military drumming on crack and swinging like a mofo, And I think the thing about Buddy, again, a lot of people are familiar with his big band from 1964 onward, sort of that last great band that he had his whole life. But if you look at examples of Buddy all the way through, he was always right there with whatever was happening, always just ears wide open, picking up whatever was the style of that period, and then, you know, doing it better than anybody else, of course. You know, so that's sort of one thing that always knocked me out when I first saw that clip, was just how deep he was already as a 12-year-old. And, you know, we know it, but when you hear it, it's like, wow, it's a whole other thing.
Absolutely.
And,
yes.
At that time, at 12 years old, that's about the time Buddy was opening up for George M. Cohan and having the responsibility of being on stage with the biggest acts in the world. Buddy was around such great masters in the vaudeville scene that he was like taking it in from every level. It was powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other story, if I may, sort of historically based. There's another video that people should check out, and I posted this on I have a Facebook page where I post a lot of historical clips and kind of really get into the kind of, you know, seeing these clips maybe anew. People sort of see the clips, but maybe they don't notice, you know, kind of certain things. And this clip of Buddy a little bit later on, 1935, with Tommy Dorsey, and I'm not sure if it's from Ship Ahoy. There's some great clips from Ship Ahoy. The duet he does with Eleanor Powell, you know, that's phenomenal. Yeah, it's unreal. I mean, but this particular clip, what knocks me out, and what a lot of people don't realize about Buddy, but also all the old school guys, when you look at what he's sitting on, he is sitting on a trap case, you know, with an overcoat over it. There's no throne. There's no, you know, and the hi-hats, by the way, at that time that he's playing on could not be raised or lowered. They're very low to the ground. And so, you know, people ask, why did they tilt the snares at such a radical angle back in those days? And it's because they really had no choice. You know, they couldn't raise the hi-hat up. The way they were sitting, there was no way to adjust the throne. The you know, anybody who's played vintage drums, obviously, I played a lot of vintage, different kind of eras of vintage drums in my life, and they you know, they may sound great, vintage drums, but they were not, you know, compared to the way that hardware and all that is designed today. That stuff was a mess. You know, if you ever played vintage, it's very primitive. Stuff's falling over. You know, the straight legs of the floor toms sound like crap, and then they unglue, and the floor tom falls on your leg, and the tom sags over. You know, and so what my point here is that if you consider what those guys were up against, and yet the music that they created and the chops that they had, it makes me appreciate even more how good they were. You know, you take some of the great drummers of today and you put them behind those old drum sets under those circumstances, I'd be, you know, interested to see if they could do the same stuff. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right.
Well, you know what, Daniel? You know, we always watch him, Buddy, and his legendary solos, and they're all tremendous. But give me a couple minutes, because I know you probably studied him and watched all this stuff, of Buddy, the drummer, not the soloist, the guy who kept the time and the groove. I don't think we talk about Buddy in that light enough, you know?
Well, again, like, you know, if you think about all the eras that he was doing his thing in, that he was important in, that era before the 1930s, there was no hi-hat, so the guys kept time on the snare drum. And you listen to that Stars and Stripes Forever, he's grooving his ass off on the snare drum. Then the hi-hat showed up, and they started moving the time on the hi-hat. And again, these old clips, if you watch Buddy with the Dorsey Band, famous version of Hawaiian War Chant, right? You know, also from Ship Ahoy. Yep. You watch what he does. You got to keep your eyes open. A lot of the drummers, Krupa did this. A lot of the old school guys, because the hi-hat was so low, they often flip their hands over to play it. So if you imagine the way we normally play today, where your right hand is on the hi-hat above your left hand that's on the snare, they couldn't make that work because the hi-hat was so low. So they would flip and they would play the hi-hat hand underneath the snare hand, which if you ever try that, it ain't easy to do. You know, it's a very complicated, cumbersome way to have to approach the hi-hat. literally reversing your hands. And I've seen it in many clips. He does it so fluidly. If you watch that Hawaiian War Chant clip from, I think it's a little later in the 30s, 39, it's unbelievable.
Well,
and then, then the ride cymbal comes along, the bebop era, and Buddy's a master of the ride cymbal. And then rock and roll comes along, straight ace, and he's a master of playing time that way. So you kind of, we just are sort of used to it. But to think that the guy went from an era, there were drummers back then who, say, Baby Dodds never got a hi-hat. He just stayed on the snare drum. He never played hi-hat. Or Gene Krupa, great with the hi-hat, but when the ride cymbal came along, he stayed in that swing style. But he just kept advancing, and like Dom said earlier, he was just he just soaked up whatever was happening and then went ahead and played it better than anybody else,
Well, Kathy,
So,
I think one of his last videos was the Hawaiian War Chant in '87. Have you seen that? I think that was one of his last videos.
Yes, he did that there was a tribute to Tommy Dorsey, and that was the last TV show that he did, with TBS special. And they did Hawaiian War Chant. Incredible. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the other thing, I want to just comment on what Daniel, was saying about, Buddy being there at the time when everything was changing. His whole thing was, obviously it wasn't about nostalgia. He never wanted to look back. His whole thing was like, I want to know what's happening tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Because when you asked him about the old days, and people would always say, well, tell me about the Dorsey days. He's like, I don't even know that guy. He said that was that was another life. That was not something, I don't talk about it. I don't live in it. I'm all about what's happening tomorrow.
Right.
And that was it.
Yeah.
He was always going to, I want to know what the next thing is. I want to know what the next thing is. I'm not going to sit and stagnate, which is what, unfortunately happens to a lot of people, is that you get stuck in one thing and you're kind of pigeonholed there for the rest of your life. He was never about that. It was always about what's coming next.
Yeah, and don't forget when Buddy was playing those old drum sets, as challenging as it was, and Daniel, you're so correct. As challenging as it was, he adapted the techniques he needed to play those drums. As the equipment got better, so did Buddy. He adapted to even better equipment and improved his skills to an even higher level. So as he got older, he got better, and that's really what's hard to deal with it, because as he got older, he kept on playing differently and better. And it was just so hysterical to watch. It was incredible.
Dom and Kathy, I have a question for you guys, and this question has been burning my mind. So when I knew I had the chance to come on, when you watch Buddy, particularly when he had, his final band from '64 until the end, every time he takes a long unaccompanied solo, the entire band is watching him. They turn around and they watch him. And I'm wondering, was that a requirement on the band? Because we all know when you play in bands and a long drum solo comes in, the horn guys will go have a chat, or they'll walk off stage or whatever. They'll do whatever they want to do, Or was it just that Buddy was so amazing every night that was a spontaneous thing, or was that something that was like, okay, when you're on the band, you watch Buddy during his solos?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because there are some charts that we still have. We have the original music still, and written on and certain parts with arrows, like pointing over to him, or like, watch Buddy.
Great. That's great.
I think that was like a thing within the band, is that you never knew what he was going to do, so you better be watching in case he was going to count you in right away, or if he was going to change something up, or if he wanted to add something. So you better keep watching it. And I think, most of the time, they were pretty mesmerized by whatever he was doing. But, it was definitely a thing within the band that, better keep your eyes on him.
There was a wonderful time I can remember with myself, Joe Morello, Charlie Perry, who was a very well-known Long Island drum teacher who also played with Benny Goodman for many, many years. He knew Buddy very well. And Morello had asked Buddy on the bus, after, Buddy used to wear like this white, remember, Kathy, the white, the bath towel or the bathrobe that he had?
Yeah.
And he had this big white thick bathrobe. He used to just, after his performance, he'd go in the bus and put this on. So we're sitting on the bus, and I'm like 19 years old. I rarely opened my mouth. I was too busy listening. I wound up, my mom always said, you have 2 ears and one mouth. Use it that way, And we're sitting down, and Morello says to Buddy, he says, Buddy, why are you so strict with the band? which I thought was a very forward question from Morello. Morello, who was a very, very, soft-spoken guy. And Buddy China said, it's interesting you ask that. He goes, I grew up in Tommy, in Tommy Dorsey's band. And Tommy Dorsey was in the Army. And these guys, when they came out of the service, and remember, Buddy was a Marine. So these guys came out of the service, and they went into the band to perform on a bus. When Tommy Dorsey said the bus leaves at 0900, that did not mean we're going to wait a couple of minutes for you. That meant 0900.
Yeah.
If you miss the bus, either you get to the next gig or we replace you. So there was a real hard discipline that was put in the band at that point. And Buddy saw the success of being able to keep 18 men on the road, organized, eating together, playing together, setting up together, working together. He saw that discipline was very important. So he learned from Dorsey's band. And then when he put his own band together with the help of Sinatra, back in the mid-'60s when he wanted to put his band together, Buddy maintained that same level of, if I'm going to put this together, it's going to be great. And if it's going to be great, there's got to be the number one word, and that word was respect. And that's when Buddy said to Morello, it really hit me. This guy, he said, I'm going to give respect, and I'm going to expect that back from you. And that's really what the band did. When Buddy soloed, the band turned to look at Buddy because they didn't know if Buddy wanted to play a solo that wanted to end it quickly or shortly.
Right.
You had to watch him for the cue. And if you missed that cue, that showed a lack of respect, and that just was not accepted on Buddy's band. And that's why his band played fantastic every freaking show.
Every night. But imagine also, like I was talking about this earlier, is that, he was sort of like the principal to a bunch of preschoolers. You know what I'm saying? So if there would have been complete chaos if, you have 16 or 18 guys on a bus and, traveling around the world, and if you don't have somebody in control, imagine what ensues. It's insanity. So, a rock band, you've got 4 guys that you have to control, and you have a wrangler that makes sure, you're up and you're getting up and you've got your vitamins and you're in the bus. Yeah. But, with Buddy, you had a set of rules, and if you followed those rules, everything was going to be cool. And if you didn't, then you would be replaced, period. That's the way it was.
Great stuff.
It's the old parenting. Say it once, and if you follow it, you'll succeed. If I have to repeat myself twice, if you cannot discipline yourself, then I will discipline you. And that's why Buddy and Dan always had the number one respect for each other.
Great.
Yeah.
Guys, we've been joined by the great Daniel Glass. Daniel, I can't thank you enough, brother. You're a special drummer and a great guy. You're part of this show. I can't thank you enough, and we'll definitely do it soon. Matter of fact, Daniel will be my guest next week with the great Simon Phillips. So I'm pumped for that.
Excellent.
Daniel, Dan, thanks so much, man.
Hey, man, it's really my honor. Thanks for having me. Kathy and Dom, so great to talk to you both. And it's such a pleasure to talk to Buddy, man. It's been great.
And if I could say one quick thing about Dan, I was so impressed with you when we performed together in Australia. You had, I'm not sure what happened to your foot. Did you break your foot, or what was it? There was something
I had a thing going on with my foot, and I was in an air cast.
Yeah, he was in like a semi-cast of what it was. Goes on stage, performs with this cast. You would have never known that he was either in pain or had this cast. He played his tail off in front of 1,000 people in Australia to a standing ovation. The people went crazy. He was a seasoned pro, and that's exactly what we learned from Buddy. The show must go on, and you did exactly that. That was great.
Great stuff, guys.
Yeah, Buddy who played with a broken arm. That's for several weeks.
Yes, he did.
Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
He played with a lot of broken stuff. Yes, he really did.
Yeah.
I can't thank you enough, Dan, but we'll talk to you soon. Everybody, the great Daniel Glass.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi,
Peace. Be well, everyone.
All right.
Good boy. Great.
Guys, we keep going. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to Around the Kid the great Matt Sorum. Joe Gansas, Dom Famularo, and the lovely Kathy Rich. How are you, Matt?
Oh, I'm very cool. I'm very honored you guys asked me to join you, so I appreciate it. Cool.
Hi, Maddie.
Matt, great hearing you, Matt. Good boy.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, Kathy.
Hi.
Yeah, I got the pleasure of seeing Kathy a couple times this summer. I was out on the road with a band Buddy probably would have hated called the Hollywood Vampires.
How can you say that?
No, I don't know. He wasn't a big rock fan, right, Kath? He didn't care too much.
You know, I think he, as he mellowed out, and I kept, forcing him to listen to my music. I think he actually became more of a fan than less of a fan. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
well, it's funny because when I got called years ago by Kathy to play on the Burning for Buddy stuff, I've been known as a rock drummer, but a lot of people don't know that I kind of came up in I wouldn't call it big band in school. We called it orchestra. And we had what was called wind ensemble, which was like kind of a version of a big band, but not quite as big and powerful. It was more of a, horn, saxes and stuff. We used to play a lot of like Maynard Ferguson charts and different arrangements of Chicago songs and stuff like that when I was a kid. So, I played, in that kind of a band when I was in high school, and then I was always the guy that the teacher would pick to play kind of the more funky, kind of like Maynard tracks. Like we used to play a track called Chameleon. Remember that song?
Of
and
course.
And I'd play kind of my funk rock version of that with the horn. So when Kathy called me to play on the Burning for Buddy album, I kind of looked into the tracks that would suit my style, and that's when Bula Witch came out. Some of the stuff he did in the early '60s when he got a little bit funkier, and that track seemed to fit. So that's the one I gravitated towards.
But Matt, in that track, you kicked ass in the beginning part. You added a nice double bass in there, and that was you added your own twist to that,
Well, yeah, it was such a crazy thing that, I think it's of a drummer that's been in a lot of rock bands, obviously, to jump into, the big band situation was really a challenge for me, and I remember getting there and all the drummers were around, I remember I saw Omar Hakim and Steve Gadd and I think Dave Weckl had just come out from doing his track, and he had this, he had this big, thing of charts, and he was carrying it all this, sticks. And I walked in there on a hangover, basically. I was, I couldn't sleep the night before. I'd been on the road doing something, and I came in, and I remember Kathy sent Buddy's driver to pick me up. I believe it's the guy that drove, right? Kathy?
Yep.
And I got picked up at JFK, and I was in this kind of old limo, and I remember going and he was telling me all these great stories, and then we ended up at the power station in New York City, and I went in. The band kind of looked at me like, who is this guy, and I remember feeling the pressure, but at the same time, somebody said to me in the hallway, Matt, where are your charts? And I said, man, I didn't bring any charts, man. I read something Buddy didn't read. I said I read something Buddy didn't read music, so I'm going to go with that.
Nice.
And I listened. I had a little Walkman that I bought on 42nd Street, and I was kind of cruising around listening, because that's really always how I kind of put myself inside the song or the music. Is I tried to let it penetrate me, and then I would play it sort of my version of it. So when I finally got into the drum position, I got up and I walked over to Steve Markison.
Right.
And
Steve Marcus, yeah.
And he pointed me to the band leader, and I can't remember his name, Kathy, at the time.
I don't remember who was leading the band at that point. I thought it was Marcus, but it could have been. Oh, I think who was it? I don't remember.
Short-haired guy played alto sax as well.
I wonder if it was Andy. Maybe Andy Fusco. Yeah. Andy.
And Marcus pointed me to Andy Fusco. He says, ask him. He's leading. And I went, can you give me a couple bars at the top? I'm gonna do a fill into it, and I'll kick you guys in. And they all kind of looked at me like, huh? And then I was like, And then I went back over, and I remember there was a big poster of Buddy on the wall. And I looked over at Buddy, and I basically asked him to possess me at that moment.
Nice.
Please, whatever you can give me right now, give it to me. And we kicked in, and it was the most amazing feeling being in front of that big band. And I played in front of some loud rock and roll bands, but that to me was power. I was like,
it sounded great, man. You did a great job.
That felt so
Absolutely.
powerful. It was almost like, I mean, imagine like sitting on a bike, you know, that you haven't ridden in a long time. It's like that. It's like, it was like sitting in the middle of this like freight train that was just pulling me along, and it was like a really, really great feeling. I remember getting done with the track, and Neil Peart came out, and we were like all celebrating, and pretty much did that in the first take, I remember. And then we did a second take just as a safety, but we used the first one on the album. And I was like, huh? That's it?
Wow.
But
yeah, it's absolutely true. He came in and he was so sweet and so adorable, and everybody fell in love with Matt that day because he walked into the studio and he raised his arms up and he goes, "I'm the heavy metal drummer." Well, and he just he endeared himself to everybody.
Well, I thank you, Kathy, for thinking outside the box, because obviously you got all these drummers, right? And the thing about drummers, stylistically, there's so many different styles of guys, and to take on those iconic songs with the band, and everything.
Yep.
That was your vision, and I think you did an amazing job. So.
Thank you. And it was, you were the one guy that I said, I put my foot down because, obviously there were lists of people and there was, crazy, Neil had his list, I had my list, and we kind of, were melding our lists together. And, when it came down to the final, I think we ended up with 22 drummers. I stood firm and I said, Matt Sorum is my guy and I want him there, and that's the end of the discussion. And that's how it ended up. And he came in and he nailed it in one take, and, Neil was blown away by it, and, that was it. And we've been friends ever since.
Well, Matt, if I can, you said, I'm the heavy metal drummer, but it's just a testament of your professionality. You come in there and you nail it. You were prepared. So that says a lot for your demeanor,
It's
true. Well, thanks. I mean, I feel like I tell this to a lot of young drummers. You guys, I overheard you talking about the young musicians walking in to a situation with a guy named Buddy Rich. To come in with professionalism, be ready, and show the respect, right? And I have recordings too, and I work with a lot of young musicians. And a lot of times they'll come in with that kind of cocky attitude. They're not really prepared. They're going to fix it in the computer. They're not really. I didn't come from that school. I came from, if I'm going to get the gig, I'm going to know the material before I get there. I'm going to have everything as close to possible with my little take on things. But as I would say, if you're a movie actor, sticking to the script, and then you could go outside the box. Don't try to come in there with too adventurous where you're going to scare everybody. But so that's what I did, and I did that when I got all my big gigs. And I think the reason I've had a career is because I always showed up prepared, and I'm not the guy that everyone's waiting on, So thank you.
But there's really not a lot of that going on anymore. People come in and they think, we were talking about it earlier, is that, people think that you put up a YouTube clip and you're going to be famous, quote unquote. And it doesn't work that way. The work ethic and the learning and the, studying and learning your craft and really getting out there and, playing every night and doing all that is a lost art. People think now anybody can be famous. And, it's kind of true. You can have a 15-second career now and, have 1 million hits on YouTube, and people think, well, I've reached it. I've done it by doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, and I feel like, stylistically, right, I started to dabble when I was in high school. Like I said, I was playing in the jazz band. And, you know, I had sort of that thing that obviously rock and roll was huge in the 70s when I was coming up. So the guys that were, you know, the Ginger Bakers and the Mitch Mitchells they had a little bit of a jazz player, all those guys, but done more in a rock and roll vein. But anyway, I sort of started to dabble in the jazz fusion. I was listening to bands like Weather Report and bands like, you know, Billy Cobham, you know, Return to Forever and all that kind of stuff. But
good. You know, man, what you did that was great is that Billy always talked about there's no rock drummer, there's no jazz drummer, you're a drummer. And whatever the music is called for, you got to put your skills together and play that music. And that's exactly what you did on the recording. You walked in, you played the music for what was needed, you added your own voice, and on top of that, you still honored the name of Buddy Rich. That's a huge combination that you did. Really, really excellent.
Oh, thanks.
It's great.
You know, I mean, I think studying the music, obviously no one's ever going to be able to play like Buddy. It's just not possible. It's like it's that guy, he's non-human. He's an alien, that guy. He was, you know, it was like, you know, sit down and try to figure it out. Good luck. You know, it's like, you know, it's like, so going into that, I already knew that. So you just kind of like, you go with what comes to you and you get there, you know, you get as much technique and stuff you can get together in your vein and go for everything you can study. So that's it.
Absolutely.
Matt Sorum, I can't thank you enough, man. Your career from Guns N' Roses to Velvet Revolver to the Cult, it keeps going on. A great drummer, and
wait, I want to
say
one thing before
go
you
ahead.
before you let Matt go. I just
Go
want
ahead.
to say that also, and we talked about this when I saw him this summer, is that he is such a class act that at the end of his day of the recording of Burning for Buddy, he was the only drummer out of 22 drummers that came and went from those sessions. He ordered everything for the band. He had a thing brought up. He had champagne for everybody. He sent trays of food. He sent, you know, whatever Neil was drinking. I mean, he was just so classy in his approach to everything that, you know, he's really a class act. He's a great guy.
Good stuff. Great.
Thanks,
Good for you,
guys.
man.
Well, thank you so much.
It was an honor, and it's something I'll never forget. And it was a real honor for me to be there. So, thank you again, Kathy, and you guys are doing a great thing here. And have a great night and have fun.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, Matt. Thanks,
Good
brother.
stuff, Matt. Stay well.
All right.
Stay well. Safe travels.
All right. Great stuff. The great Matt Sorum, everybody. Guys, let's keep going because we don't stop tonight. Another great drummer, great teacher. Gives me great pleasure to welcome to Around the Kid, the great Ted McKenzie. Ted, Joe Ganza. What's up, Ted?
Hey, how you doing, man? Hi,
Ted, you're on the line with Kathy Rich, Dom Famularo, and the little guy, Joe Ganza.
Yeah,
the little guy.
Yeah, how are you, Ted? Good to hear your voice, Ted.
Oh, good to be online with all you guys. Hey, Joe, you're just amazing. You got the personality, you got the right things to say, and you got the best topic in the world right now.
Oh my God! Well, let's start it off. Let's start it off with Kathy. I want you to start off with Ted. You want anything you want to say to him or ask him about Buddy?
Well, funny because I met Ted. How many years ago was it, Ted, when you were doing the video for the book?
It was actually a little over 10 years ago.
Wow, is that long ago? I met Ted, and he was, you know, getting ready to do the Buddy Rich book, and we met in a studio in Las Vegas, and you know, we didn't really know what to expect or what was going to come of it. But it's an amazing book, and everybody should have that book, you know, that wants to learn about, you know, Buddy and how, you know, he approached certain things. And I just want to, you know, commend him on a job well done.
Oh, thank you so much. It was such an honor to be, you know, to be asked to do that. And I really felt it needed a DVD, and that's when I kind of prodded music sales to do that. And when I went out to do it, they said, "You're going to interview Kathy Rich," and my knees started knocking, and I
It's funny. Great, you know. Knock also. Yeah.
I'm really not that
come
scary.
on. Kenny Arnoff, now Ted McKenzie. Oh God.
Yeah. Well,
Jesus.
I mean, it's one thing to have Buddy as an idol, and but then to meet his charming daughter. That's just beyond. And I just love. Yeah, I just love the time we had together. And I'll never forget the producer saying to me, "Hey, where are your notes?" Because we're about to go on and do that thing. And I said to him, "I don't need any notes." I said, "I mean, I just had that moment, and I regard it like almost like I don't mean to compare myself to Buddy, but I just love everything about Buddy. I had so many questions they asked, and I just knew if I made it, if I had a cheat sheet in front of me, I'd screw it all up." And
moment. Yes.
Yeah, I just had to sit down and be in the moment. And I think that when you guys are all alluding to Buddy playing, I mean, I remember my dad, he brought records home for me when I was a little kid. My dad was a drummer. And I listened to these great drummers, and then he brought Buddy home, and I flipped out. And it took me, I don't know, years to understand the fact that he did not read music, and he would play an arrangement like it should be played right from the heart every time. And he would put his all into it, and it was always, perfectly done, always, perfectly executed. And that's what we all want to do as a drummer, but he could do it every single time. It's just, no one can do that, really. I mean, who can do that? I don't... well, I'll put it this way: if you know the arrangement by heart, you have a chance, and you make it work. But Buddy was just beyond. It's just, I think that's what we're talking about. It's just.
We were talking about that earlier. We were saying that someone was saying with Buddy soloing, it was always incredible every night, and it was always different every night. But I was saying that he always believed that you were telling a story when you were soloing, and also his emotional life was coming through his solos. So basically, what I said earlier was he was basically telling you how he was feeling that day, when he was soloing. He was giving you his emotional take on whatever he was feeling at that moment.
Yeah, I'm as you're saying that, I'm thinking the first time I saw him which was at Lenny's on the Turnpike. I was at Berkeley, and everyone at Berkeley was at Lenny's to hear Buddy play, and I squeezed in there, and I happened to be standing right next to him as he's sitting there leading the band. So I'm I could have gotten my belt buckle stuck in the hi-hat shutting off and on, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and I'm looking at his feet, and he's running the band, and I'm just out of my mind. I mean, and he would take a solo before each arrangement, and then he would call out the number, and I was suddenly getting this thing like, oh my God, he doesn't have a chart, and he's playing, he hits the arrangement, and I'm thinking, he played the freaking arrangement before they started playing the chart, and then then it proceeds, and at the end of the night he takes a solo, and everyone stands up and screams, and me too, and it's just almost an unbelievably God-given moment. I mean, and I know all these. I knew a lot of these guys in the band that were with him, not that night, but for the next 10, 20 years, and I would end up playing with him, or sometimes recording with him, and they all, everyone at that time, when the band would come together, is after being in this band, they would say, "Oh, you were in Buddy's band. Well, how about the tapes?" And I remember asking you about that, Kathy, but this proceeded after even we met, and I was
to this day, yes.
Yeah, Rick Patrone said this. I'm going to give a couple of names. Richie Cole.
Yep.
There's a couple others on different gigs we did after the fact, and they said, was he really like that? And each one of them independently said this, and I think this is a great tribute to your dad. They said they considered what Buddy taught them was the greatest moment of their career, and when he yelled at somebody, they deserved it. Now, maybe you could say, well, maybe they didn't have to say it the way he did, but that was his business, his business.
He was an emotional guy, and he was a perfectionist, and he wanted it to be amazing every night. because he believed that, you know, if guys come in and they're complaining, oh, I've got a cold, or I've got a this, or my back is, he didn't care about that. He said the people that are paying their money to come in that door to see us are getting away from their problems, and we owe it to them to give 150%, because they don't want to know about your cold and we're late and we're this. You know, it's a professionalism and it's a work ethic and it's a way of being that we unfortunately don't see a lot of anymore.
If I can, I got a question for Ted McKenzie and then Dom Famularo. The same question. You know, you watch a Buddy. If you're a young drummer and you get a chance to watch Buddy, you're probably never gonna play like him. But what attribute, guys, can a young drummer take from watching Buddy? Ted.
Attribute. He's the gold standard. So when you watch him, like I show all my students Buddy. You a lot of them now, they have no idea who he was. And I said, well, here he is. And I put up a video. I said, this is Buddy Rich. And, you know, a lot of them are just dumbfounded. Some of them don't get it because I've never seen anybody play like that. But, you know, number one, you have to be an entertainer when you're a drummer. You have to grasp the audience. You have to make them swing and dance. You have to play that arrangement. I think you've been talking about this all night. I've been listening all night. So I'm just repeating a lot of what you said. But a drummer has, I tell my students, you are the boss of the band. I said, if you don't want to tell them the boss, you're the boss of the band a lot of times, but you want to let them know that you are in charge of the band by how you keep that groove together, your dynamics, and you've got to play from your heart. And you're entertaining them. You're entertainers when you play the drums. You have to put all that together. It's a huge deal. And, you know, it's you know, my students, man, they go through this Buddy Rich book and they get their hand speed together. That's the other thing that Buddy had that a lot of people don't understand. He could get out of the drum. He could get out of the rebound of the drum. Your foot and your hand, they have to get out of the drum. And you don't put a lot of effort into it, you know? And so you've got to get control over things. You have to know these rudiments. You have to learn how to read, even though you're not, you know, going to be like Buddy.
How about?
But, you know, those all those things. And, you know, Buddy just, he encompassed that and his God-given talent, which, you know, he was blessed with. And I don't think there would be a like of that again, because, you know, in our life anyway.
How about Dom Famularo? Dom, same question. You know, drummers are not going to play like him, but what can we learn from this great drummer, you know, that besides the playing aspect?
Well, great question, Joe. And first of all, Ted, I've got to say that the what you did with the book and the effort that it took, I know what it's like to write a book, and you put some serious hours and some serious research into putting that book together. And from Henry Adler, from the first days of the Buddy Rich book to what you have done, you really took that book and brought us into the 21st century of how to introduce Buddy to this young generation. So kudos to you. My hat's off to you. You did an absolutely great job.
Thank you.
And what's amazing,
appreciate that coming
away from it. Oh, you did great, man. And I recommend the book, and we talk about the book all the time because it's a necessary fundamental learning for young kids to have, because that will always be around, as Buddy will always be around. What's amazing, Joe, in this question, what's really great about it, is that I witnessed Buddy at 2 different times that really blew me away. Once he had 103 fever. They had just taken his temperature on the bus. 103 fever. And you remember Steve Peck, Kathy?
Of course, yes.
Okay. Steve would work sound and do different things and manage the band. And Steve was the one who took his temperature. And we did it a couple of times. He had 103 fever. You could see he was burning. You could see his face was kind of red. So Buddy says, let's go. The people are waiting. And Buddy went out and played that day. And he played 2 sets that were ridiculously on fire. I mean, he played like it was like literally like it was his last show. He played both sets, incredible finishes. Here afterwards, it was a 99. He literally played the freaking fever out of his system.
Great.
So that's the first one. The second one was August 16th, 1983, and I remember that date exactly because the next day was my first day. I was flying to Japan to perform, and I was emceeing the show at Hofstra University, ironically enough, which is where the debate just was a couple of days ago for the presidential debate. But it was in that same theater that Buddy had played with his big band. And it was just a few weeks after his heart bypass. And this is when, and the doctor had told him, you should wait several months before you go out. And Buddy was, within just a few weeks, Buddy was on the road again. And Buddy said, I didn't like what the doctor said, so I went for a second opinion.
My own, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And he went out and he played great. And what you get from that is the fact that no matter how you feel, your respect for the audience and your ability to want to push yourself, that's prime when it comes to being able to be an artist at that level. To give 110% all the time, no matter how you feel, no matter what's going through your mind, because your concern is to give the best performance to that audience. That's what I believe every young artist and young drummer should take out of Buddy.
Great. Yeah. I can't thank you guys enough. Ted, I got my last drummer on the line, but I want to thank you, brother. The book, you've been on the show 3 times. What a great guest and an even better human being, man. I can't thank you enough for coming on this show.
Thanks so much, Joe. And I also wanted to mention, if I could, Buddy Rich's rudiments around the kit as well, because he takes all of Buddy's snare drum book and puts it around the drum kit. It's a great help for all you people out there. So,
yes,
thanks
absolutely.
so much.
Everyone should have it.
Great.
Good to talk to you, Ted.
Nice to talk with you.
Great, Ted. Stay well.
You too. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Great stuff. The great Ted McKenzie, guys. Guys, the show is winding down, and the last guest of the night gives me great pleasure to welcome to Around the Kit the great Mr. Jimmy Ford. Jimmy,
hello.
Joe Gansett, Kathy
hello,
Rich,
Joe.
and Dom
Kathy. Hello, Dom. How are you? How you doing, guys?
Jimmy, how you doing?
I'm good. Hi, Kathy. How are you, dear?
I'm wonderful.
How are you,
I
Kathy?
just have to tell you, Joe, I love this man like I can't even begin to tell you. He is like one of my dearest friends. I just adore him.
Great.
I love you
Good
too.
Stuff.
You are truly awesome. I mean, really, that's heartfelt. I love you too, Kathy. Thank you so much. This is quite an honor. Joe. Again, always a great job that you do. Love your show. And Dom Famularo, I'm a huge fan, man. I really am. This is great. I am so honored. And, what can I say about the great Buddy Rich? He was a huge influence on my playing. He still is to this day. The game-changing moment for me was when I was about 7 or 8 years old, and my mom and my stepdad, we were out on a Sunday drive, and Buddy and the band were playing at Eisenhower Park in Hempstead, Long Island. And I saw the marquee out front of the park, and I jumped up. And back then, you didn't have to wear a seatbelt. And I jumped up and I said, Mom and Dad, you got to turn around. It's Buddy Rich. So my mom said, okay, turn the car around. We got to go see Buddy Rich. And I was flabbergasted because I've never, ever seen anyone play drums like that. I mean, I was instantly hooked. And, what can I tell you? Buddy played a tremendous performance. Not only was the band great, but it was the way Buddy approached the music. His feel, his time, the way he set up figures. He played some of the slickest stuff. It was incredible, And a lot of guys, a lot of guys don't know this about Buddy, but he was also a great brush player. If you listen to some of those recordings that he did.
We didn't talk about that.
Yeah, wait. I'm gonna bring this up because I need to hip you guys to this. You got to check out these recordings with Lionel Hampton, Buddy, and Art Tatum. There's no bass player, okay?
Absolutely.
There's just the three of these guys playing. Art was so strong anyway. You didn't need a bass player, and Buddy played brushes like just as sensitive and as swinging, and some of the stuff he played was just so tasteful and sweet, and it was just great. And of course, Lionel Hampton, Gates, as we know him, the ever swinging Lionel Hampton. It was you got to check these recordings out, And then there's another recording with Lionel Hampton and Oscar Peterson and Buddy. And Buddy just plays all this amazing stuff with brushes. I mean, just so
Well,
tasty, so musical.
Well, Jim,
and I don't
you
think
know,
a lot of people know Buddy from playing, big band music, but not as many people know of his work in the small group setting. And,
That's right.
the amazing thing, the recordings that he made with Charlie Parker and,
Absolutely.
her Strings album, I mean, with Ella, the Porgy and Bess with Louis Armstrong, I mean, just unbelievable. You got to go back and listen to all of that stuff as well, because it's a whole other side of him. And, of course, the brushwork, amazing. To me, it was like when he did the cymbal solos with the brushes, it's like butterflies dancing. It's the most musical and beautiful thing to watch and to hear. You've got to go back and listen to all that stuff.
You definitely got to check that out. Buddy wasn't always, of course we've known him as a true master of the percussion instrument. We've known him as being this tremendous powerhouse behind the kit, driving the big band. But when you heard him playing in a small group setting, this man, I mean, the brush thing that he did, I mean, just accompanying the other musicians, I mean, he definitely can swing you into bad health, He had a great mind. His ideas, the things that he would invent, the things that he would come up with. When I was a young kid, watching Buddy, as I was coming up and practicing, as we all did, I was so amazed and in awe of his speed. But it wasn't until I became a young adult, I remember seeing Buddy, it was a year before he passed. He played at the Bottom Line, and I just recently got those beautiful Radio Kings. Right. And I remember in the audience watching him, and it wasn't so much that I was in awe of what he did, but I was in awe of what he conveyed in a musical context. I mean, everything he played was beautiful, and everything he played, his phrasing, his ideas, his musicality, it was off the charts. And being a young adult, I was able to really appreciate what he did behind that drum set. It was really amazing. He would do things like, he would do his thing, and he would play like, one of his things that he does. And I would chuckle to myself and say, that was cute. I like that. Or he would do something else, and it was like, oh, wow, that was very cool. So it was like I understood what he was doing in that musical context. It was great. What a great experience. It was wonderful.
That's awesome.
Really
great.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy, good for you, man. And I got to tell you something. I was at that event. I was at that show. I remember that.
Were you?
A year before, but absolutely at the Bottom Line. I remember that vividly. And I remember the old drums he had. It was a new kit that was made for him. That was kind of like designed for him from the old school days. And the set sounded fantastic. And he just played the hell out of them that night.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. Oh, it was just incredible. And Kathy, you were there too, because I think I remember I saw you. Yeah, I think so, because I remember seeing you backstage in the dressing room. You go up the stairs and then go down the stairs. Yeah, you were there. Yeah.
And he loved playing there.
Oh, yeah. It's a great
room.
spot.
Bottom line. Yes.
A great room. They had some really good food there, too. It's really, really nice spot. But it's too bad it's not. Yeah.
Jimmy,
that was a great spot.
I first heard your name from Louis Bellson. And that in itself, Louis and Buddy were very, very dear friends. And Louis had great respect for Buddy, as did Buddy for Louis. But I remember Louis talking about yourself as a young player when Louis had first heard you. And that's pretty powerful that you have throughout your career maintained such a high level of bringing a lot of the older style of knowledge to a lot of the newer age of playing. You've done that so well, man. Good for you. Really, really great.
Well, thank you.
Also,
Jimmy, very much. Appreciate that.
Jimmy has played with. You played with Lionel Hampton, and so did Buddy. So that's pretty cool.
Well, you know what? That's funny that you mentioned that. Yes, I was on Hamp's band for 5 solid years. It was a great experience. Nice. I was 21. I was right out of college. I attended Long Island University in Brooklyn. I wanted to go to Berkeley, but it was a financial thing for me. So I said, you know what? I'm going to stay in town, and I'm glad that I did. I stayed in New York City, and I saw everybody. So, being in town and going to all the jazz spots in Manhattan, that was an extension of my musical education. So I'm glad I did that. You know.
And we could have met
and
him because Hamp lived in our building, and he almost burned it down one day.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right, Kathy. That's right.
I know.
Gates' apartment was 28K, and also Robbie Benson lived there too.
We were at 34E, so we were above him, and we heard that he had set fire to his apartment.
Yes. Yeah, the lamp fell over. Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh, crazy.
Guys,
oh, so crazy.
I could have met you in the fire. Yes.
That's right. You were smoking, baby.
There you go.
Smoking.
We have like 5 minutes, guys. Let's go to some closing statements. Let's start with Dom Famularo. Dom, it's been a great show. Just a quick minute on Buddy, just to close this show.
Absolutely, Joe. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Jimmy. Great to hear your voice.
Man, it's a pleasure.
It really is. You really continue to do a great job when you play. And it's just so good for the younger kids to hear, which is phenomenal. I got to start with Kathy. You know, I said it when I first came on the show that we are blessed to have the legacy of someone like Kathy to continue the spirit of Buddy with the band, with Greg, all of this effort. I know how hard Kathy works for it. It's not easy. And Kathy, you're doing great, man. Your dad would be extremely proud of you for how hard you worked to maintain his name and to keep everything going in this crazy world of changing times. The standard in the drumming industry is Buddy, and you have helped to keep that standard alive. That's powerful.
Oh,
that's right.
That's very, very powerful.
Thank you so much, Dom. That means so much to me. You know that, and I just love you, and we've been friends for such a long time, and we'll be friends forever.
And thank you so much, because I cherish that friendship. But I just have to say really quickly, the golf story that your mom told me like 30 years ago about Buddy playing golf is just the most classic story of Buddy in the world.
I know the Billy Eckstein story?
Well,
when they were out on the golf course in Vegas?
Absolutely, and Buddy, threw his clubs into the water. And
wait, but you have to preface it by saying that they had been playing. Buddy thought that he could attempt anything and have it be as easy as it was for him to play drums, right? So
absolutely.
He was a golfer, but more trees ended up with clubs wrapped around them than actual hit by balls. Okay. So yes, I'm gonna tell the story very, very quickly. He got up. They used to play all night, and then at 5 or 6 a.m. because it got so hot in Vegas, they'd go to the golf course early in the morning, 5, 6. And he was playing horribly that day, and ended up just getting so frustrated. And he took his entire golf bag with the clubs and everything else in it, and threw it into the pond, and stormed off the course. So they just, figured, well, that's Buddy, and they continued playing through and whatever. And then, like 2 minutes later, they look up, and in the distance, they see the shadowy figure of Buddy, like, coming back down towards them. And they're thinking to themselves, oh, well, he cooled down, he came to his senses, and, he's going to continue playing the game. So he's getting closer and closer. He gets right to them, walks past them, rolls up his pant legs, wades into the pond, pulls the bag out of the water, unzips the side thing, reaches in, pulls out his car keys, throws the bag back in.
I love it. Oh God,
and then
that's great.
Got in his car and drove away.
Got the car, drove away.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
That's
classic.
Right there.
Great stuff.
That's him.
Jimmy
That's
Ford,
funny.
I can't thank you, bro. We got like a minute left. Just a great
Thank you,
show.
Joe.
Dom Famularo, Kathy Rich. I don't know what to say. It's been a great 3 hours.
Thank you, Kathy. Love you.
Love
Great
you, Jimmy.
stuff, Kathy. I just can't thank
Joe,
you enough.
I want to just tell you one more time what a great job you do. Your show is fantastic. You do so much for the drumming community, and I'm happy to know you and be part of your success.
Great, guys. Dom Famularo, Jimmy Ford, Kathy Rich,
Dom,
guys.
Great.
We'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, Joe. Jimmy,
love you,
to
Dom.
hear you.
Talk to you soon.
Kathy,
Great
I
to
love
hear
you
you.
too, man. Thanks.
Love you guys.
Great
God bless
stuff.
you all.
All right. Have a great night. Bye, guys.
Have a great night,
Guys,
Joe.
great
Take care.
stuff.
Bye-bye. God bless.
Just real fast. Next week, the great Simon Phillips and Daniel Glass. Guys, good night. Have a great night.
Thanks, Joe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.